stupid question, but am I good to like drink water throughout?
Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, I feel like you guys like drank shit in the past.
Yeah.
Alright. So I hear everything you say through my headphones too.
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Oh yeah. Oh, that sounds so crisp.
Isn't that great?
That's amazing.
Alrighty. And we're rolling.
Oh, we're rolling already. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So, it's super raw and... And it doesn't need to be like super produced, but
Sounds good to me. It's the best way to go. It's honest.
yeah. So, where should we start?
Well, welcome to my basement.
Welcome to my podcast,
Thanks. What is it called? Virtual reality?
Virtual Reality. The first season in the longest show of history.
Wow.
Yeah, because the internet's going to be around forever. So we get to choose like what goes, like who we are on the internet, and our ancestors are going to look up, or progeny? I don't know. They're going to look up who is our oldest ancestor on the internet.
I think it kind of speaks to legacy in a way too, which is something I hope we talk about a little bit later. But I think it was when we were talking about it before we started rolling, just like an awesome idea. Something you're keeping for yourself. You're not trying to make money off of it or really do anything with it other than have fun talking to people and document it for future generations.
Yeah, the stories are great. I don't like to look at the numbers of like how many people have seen it because it doesn't matter. I mean,
Right.
half the clicks are mine anyway, just to make sure it worked. So here we are talking about camp. And the last time I was a counselor at camp was 5 years ago.
Hmm.
And I never came to visit except that one time we're not going to mention.
Good times.
Yeah. And you're still doing stuff there.
Still doing stuff.
What's your title?
Well, it changes every year, which is
obviously.
like, it's fine. Like, I don't expect anything different, but last summer I was athletic director. Before that, I was junior boys supervisor. And then I think if this year was going to happen, I was probably going to be inner boys supervisor, which they actually...
They call it inner again?
This year, they were going to bring it back to inners.
Yeah, they
So-
changed it to senior and then super senior
Yeah,
instead of
stupid
inner
idea.
and senior.
So inners was going to make a comeback. I guess we're putting it off for next year now. But, I go in every year with a different role, not really knowing what to expect other than to expect nothing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm there before camp and after camp. I do the pickups of internationals from the airport, driving them places after camp. And it's fun. Starting to get more responsibility with pre and post camp groups
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
And Josh is still the owner.
He is.
Do you converse with him at all about what you're doing, or is it kind of like you're a little lower down the chain?
I don't even know if it's like a chain lower higher thing. I think it's just the way the hierarchy is designed is that my boss is going to be someone different because Josh is not in charge of the groups or something like that. So for camp, I'll be reporting to, I guess, RAP. But for post camp, Weston is in charge of the groups. So it's
Mhm.
not a matter of being below Josh or anything. It's like Weston is the highest up on the group chain.
Yeah.
And then I'm like the right-hand man for Weston. So
Weird.
I've hung out with Josh like casually at camp when he's there. Like when I filmed the video for 3510 a few weeks ago, like we were chilling and drinking outside Josh's cabin. Like that was awesome. But
Was that the first time you chilled with Josh?
in that way, yeah, definitely. So
That's crazy.
yeah,
What was he like? Different?
it was awesome. I mean, like it was a very weird time because the stuff we're talking about is we're filming a video of 3510, something that's happened probably since whenever the Wisers took over and maybe even before. So unfamiliar, like uncharted waters there, but it was really cool just to reflect on camp and like looking ahead. We were talking about trying to use the facilities more in the off season. Like you have a few good months of good weather before the winter when camp's not usable. So why not have like a haunted hayride at camp, or why not have reunions or like alumni things at camp where you can come and use the facility in the off season. So it was cool. It was very casual, just kind of shooting the shit while making that video. Like literally I was sitting there on my laptop with a hotspot for my phone right outside Josh's cabin, just like talking about Quebec, eating train stop. Amazing. Best pizza.
That's crazy. You're talking about the facilities. One of the things that I thought when I was racking my brain about how to like conceptualize camp was first of all just how impossible it is to describe it, and that's always been like a meme of how hard it is to describe camp to someone who just hasn't experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that like jogged my memories was thinking about the locations, and I thought of like if a conversation about camp gets stuck, you just think of like the tennis courts, like what happened on the tennis courts,
Right,
a ton
right.
of shit,
Mm-hmm.
and not just like tennis and stuff.
Of course.
Although they say music is what happens between the notes,
Yes, definitely.
and I thought that was like a good metaphor. And then I was thinking about the mini golf course, about how Nova 15 brought back mini golf,
Mhm.
and then everyone started doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many facilities at camp that could be used in the off season and at camp, just complete revivals out of nowhere.
Well, and I think with facilities at camp, like Quebec is not known to be a Canadensis or a Nakamixon in terms of like these beautiful country club-esque facilities. And I don't think I would want it to be like that necessarily, but the facilities are what you make of it, like you said, with Nova 15 and mini golf, or like memories that you make and like the attitude that you go into different things with. So like to us, like the Crest softball or soccer fields and softball fields, they're just fields, but like you make them what they are. And like like we'll probably touch on this more, but like rope burn is just us getting wood and making a fire, but you make that something bigger than itself. So
Yeah. Let's jump into rope burn. Why not? Why not just
sure,
start there?
Sure.
So you build a fire, you burn a rope, and how far is the rope up off the
I
ground?
want to say like 12 feet. We'll ask a resident rope burn expert, David Ost, at some point.
Yeah. But 2 pit members building the fire, 1 person chopping the wood, and 2 teams. So like the oldest bunk gets split up and stuff, and color war ensues, and at the end is rope burn for the guys and chariot for the girls. And one of the things that struck me so much about rope burn was just how like not exciting it was when you were in it. Like we ran off into the woods, it was like, oh my god, adrenaline, everyone's cheering around you. But then when you're in the woods collecting sticks, like there's nothing exciting about that. You're just picking up sticks.
Right. I think that initial I don't want to say novelty, that undersells it, but the excitement is in the beginning when everyone's cheering you on.
The
like
roar
your
of
first
the
few
crowd.
runs when you're coming back, they're chanting your last name. Now, I can't like totally relate because I was a runner coach, but I was in the pit when we were in rope burn as participants, so it's hard to relate. But I have heard that same sentiment that when you're out there, it's like, all right, we're just fooling around out here. Like I heard you guys are like just casually talking to the other team when you're out there, like on top of a pile of wood. So. Yeah, it is pretty funny how it's seen as this like super masculine rite of passage, and it is. But then when you really break it down deeper, it's like, okay, like after that first little bit, it's just like just running in some pieces of wood.
Yeah, if there was no crowd, if there was no lore and the shirts, the pass down, the videos and all that, like it'd be nothing.
Right,
It'd be
and I
nothing.
think it really would have been fascinating if there was camp this summer, how that would have affected. Like you watch the NBA and the NHL, and they have these things they can do to artificially make that environment, but there was not going to be any parents or visitors during Color War this year if it happened. So you're just relying on campers to create that environment. It just wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the decision like going into not having camp this year?
So I was not part of this decision or any of the discussions. All of my knowledge is
sure.
coming from like Rap, Nash, and Weston, and obviously Rap and Nash had no involvement either. So Weston knew from like chatting with the directors, but even he wasn't the one like unofficially pushing the button to like cancel camp. We thought it was happening. Like we were pretty confident. We waited as long as we could, sent out a letter to the parents with like a survey asking like, will you send your kids? Because they want to make sure they have enough people to run a program efficiently. Like if you only had 100 people signing up, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
So the results of the survey were actually pretty good. I think a decent amount of people were going to send their kids, maybe like 66%, like 2/3, something substantial enough. And then it was weird because we all along were waiting for the green phase of reopening. And I guess I should say to the future viewers, a green phase, the COVID. There's a lot to unpack with COVID, but like we needed government approval to open a summer camp. And to do that, you needed COVID cases to drop by a certain amount, and they did.
In the state or the county?
It was state legislation that applied to counties reopening, if that makes sense. So,
Oh,
like,
right. Yeah, there was the map with the green
Right.
counties, the
So
yellow counties.
It was each county was could be in a different phase, but that decision came from above from the governor's office. So we were green, I think June 26th ish, which would have been fine. We were going to delay the start anyway. We decided, or not we, I wasn't really part of it. Camp shut down June 18th, and we were meant to arrive for orientation July 7th, I believe. So it was like very sudden. Like we were all ready to go, like excited, a little scared. Like not scared, I guess like anxious, nervous. But yeah, it was June 18th, and I think the final verdict was like, look, we have all these good protocols and policies, and we have the testing. That was a big thing. They got the testing. But
Really?
yeah, they had like a partnership with LabCorp to do. They would send you the test at home, you mail it in, and then you would get tested upon arrival as well. But I think the fear was like these tests aren't perfect. I think even the best ones, there's a 15% sensitivity rate. So like
Yeah.
if 100 people with COVID get the test, 85 of them will have a positive test.
Yeah. And with statistics, the law of large numbers says that you're guaranteed false positives,
Right.
false negatives, and all that.
Right, and if the testing, like the NBA and NHL have been so successful because they have money and they can have, in the beginning, I know the NBA players are getting tested multiple times a day.
Yeah.
So that rules out the false positives or false negatives because there's enough samples to like
multiple
make sure.
tests per person.
Right. So for Quebec, the plan was you're going to get a test and you like in the mail before camp, or you can come to camp and do it if you live locally, and that will be negative. Then you come to Quebec, and on the first day you get tested again. But like, what happens if there's a false negative, and then they just go into camp and they're just doing their thing and they infect like 10 other people, and then you're screwed and it's done.
And yeah, it just sweeps through.
So I think the belief was they saw people, and this wasn't really.
And again, the law of large numbers, like some kid's gonna get fucked up, like
Mhm.
even if there are no underlying conditions, which at camp, diabetes.
Right. No, definitely. And like the owners have like two of the three directors have diabetes. So, yeah, I think it came down to the fact that they saw people starting to like loosen up because they were in the green phase. So you could go and you were allowed to go to your friend's house and hang out. You could go to restaurants and have outdoor seating. And they said, look, like, we don't fault them for this. Like if they were parents of teenagers, they would let their teenagers go out too. But there's too much risk that COVID is going to be brought into camp, and that one weekend you're going to shut down. So better safe than sorry. Like, let's shut it down instead of putting our camp on the line and safety of campers on the line. So,
Yeah. And it's almost better, now that I think about it, of having a gap year than like a really stifled year.
it would have been extremely weird. Like, I think it would have been great because everyone just loves camp and is excited to be there, but no one's allowed in or out. So counselors, you couldn't go out at night.
Oh my God.
It's unclear what the deal would be with like ordering in food, or I don't know. I don't know how things would work. Like, so if you were in different cohorts or pods by division, let's say, or at least in the beginning, what if I have a brother who's in juniors and I'm in seniors? Am I not allowed to go talk to my brother because he's in a different pod? So it's a lot of stuff to consider. I don't think we were going to go with masks. Maybe the adults in like arts and crafts would wear the mask. But from my understanding, masks are meant to protect you from me. So that's backwards, because if we want to protect the older at-risk people, everyone should be wearing a mask. So it would have been just a lot to consider, and I feel like every day we would have found something new, like, uh-oh, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah.
So it was the right call, I think.
All right, let's put a stop on the current like Corona talk.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Hate it.
jump into the past. So what comes to your mind? What did you want to talk about, or what? I don't know.
I think
you put a pin in something.
Yeah, I mean, Quebec has so many, and I think all summer camps can probably be broken down into so many different mental, developmental kind of things. Like, you start to develop so much more than at camp than you probably do anywhere else, just because you have the hierarchy of like which people are cool, or like having a brother or sister that's older at camp, or like your parents went here, and there's so many different ways you can approach a discussion on it.
Yeah.
So for me, and we talked about it in the group chat a while ago, it's almost like capitalistic environment based off of athleticism where you either are athletic or you have to be like super funny or you get bullied.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because we always discuss like who didn't make it. Like we had probably 30 kids our age that didn't make it all the way through. Some lasted 1 year, some lasted like 4 years. I mean, like I think of guys like Austin Rose, Spencer Spivak, like they were there for a couple years. So what goes wrong, or what about camp wasn't for them? And to me, it's something like, what do you have to offer to us? It's kind of messed up, but like, and we want to talk about CG at some point because he's a really interesting
He's
example.
like a unicorn, CG.
Yeah.
Shout out CG because your little ass will watch this sometime.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about like your thoughts, and we can really dive into like how the social structure works at camp.
Yeah, because I wasn't really athletic,
Right.
but I kind of found my way,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really weird. I guess I'll explore that blindly for a sec. That when I came to camp, when you're super young, you can kind of get away. The skill gap doesn't you really make or break someone until you get a little older.
Mm-hmm.
Juniors, like 10-year-olds, you're just running around. But 15-year-olds, you better know what you're doing. But as I got older, well, first off, I did play baseball well, and as every Jewish kid around here does. So during softball leagues, I really could hold my own, and it was funny for people to start recognizing that because I was the unathletic kid. So to see me dinging shots into right field intentionally and just hitting triples every single time,
Yep.
playing catcher unironically, because all the bad kids would go to catcher.
Yep.
But
Yeah, it's just like the least dangerous position.
yeah, throw them in catcher.
Yeah.
But I actually played catcher. I made plays at the plate. It was a lot of fun. And but everything else, let's say soccer and basketball, God, don't even talk to me about basketball. I was on Benny Brownstein's team my low senior year. I think Johnny Coxon was the coach. I don't think I played a point in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, I'm sure, because like I was the same way. Like even though I consider myself like a pretty good basketball player at camp, when you're the lowest on the totem pole, it's like, oh my God, like I like fear going on the court and not being good because you're worried that like Nova and Temple are gonna yell at you, and I'm sure that we had that.
And
same
when we were
effect on
low
others.
seniors, it was huge because Nova 10, they were big guys.
Big guys, really athletic.
Yeah, that was when I started playing goalie in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I get messed up.
Yeah,
like
you get
the
like
first,
bruises after. Probably.
Yeah, they scored 10 times on me, and it's like, who else? Who
Right.
else is going to play goalie?
Right.
But you sink or swim. You just take it like day by day.
So
but
I guess I wonder, like, when you were, ignore juniors because like there's a close enough gap in everyone's athleticism. We're all kind of like weirdos at that point, like age 6 to 11.
yeah.
Did you ever feel like an outcast when you were in those like 12 to 14 range of age?
Yeah, a little bit. And I mean, I was a really gimmicky kid. I was like, I actually said this on my podcast with my freshman year roommate. I was talking about this kind of thing. Like, I was a jester.
Mm-hmm.
I was a guy that made fun of authority, and that got me laughs from the other like guys around us.
Do you think that was something you had before that you just always did, or in this case it was kind of a response to like not having that athleticism that you needed to replace that with something else?
Bit of a mix.
Okay.
Bit of a mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, in a huge way. I mean, I was really tight with Frankie, as we called him back then.
Yeah.
Frank nowadays.
Yeah, he's changed.
Yeah.
He changed his name. He's like, I haven't heard that name in years.
Yeah. And it's funny that I said it that way then, but we're in the mindset.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'd like sit on the roof. If you're going down the back of boys line, one of the last bunks, the roof you can kind of get on and sit.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I would just sit and chill and like talk about home and I guess and other weird, I don't know, just kids sitting on a roof in the middle of the woods kind of thing, and talk about random stuff. And it was like a weird mixture of cultures, I guess. He's the athletic one, I'm the unathletic one. I go on walks in the woods, and I felt like I was a little courageous. I had like enough chutzpah to go out and do stuff. I didn't really, shy away from doing the sports and doing the other stuff. But
I'm visualizing this like montage of you and Frankie as little kids like hanging out, and then it cuts to like you and Frankie as counselors during Battle of the Countries, just doing whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, and I mean I shot around in like during rest periods and recall and stuff. I'd go and play hockey with Braundorf. We'd shoot around in hockey. So I worked on my games, and especially hockey. I did enjoy that, and when it got into the TK season, that just gave me the confidence to hit some children, like, check people
in
into
an
the boards.
appropriate way.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
is there an appropriate way to hit children?
Yeah,
on the
assert
court.
myself. Yeah, I felt like sure enough about myself to assert myself, like just not in basketball. Basketball was the one pass I gave myself where it's like I'm not getting good. And even today, a lot of my friends, like I'll go over to my friend's house, 7 guys over, they're shooting around basketball. I'm like, nah.
Basketball's a weird one too, because like, not to go off too much on a tangent here, but like hockey, you can succeed by being fast and hitting the ball hard, even if your coordination on a slap shot doesn't look right. Like there's plenty of guys at camp that never played hockey outside of camp, but they're successful because they're fast and strong. But basketball, like you kind of need that coordination dribbling, or else you're just that guy who passes the ball right.
You can't run faster than you can dribble.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I fit in. Like even soccer was in that like territory of you need at least some skill to keep the ball with you. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was on Dylan's team, or Novus Summer, and he kind of like made an effort to like get it to me like 3/4 of the way down the field, and then have me do something.
Did try to put it in I hate to say it, but it's like the Matty Boy treatment. Like give you the ball and like in a perfect position where you have to do something with it.
Well, I think that's indicative of a broader kind of ethic, moral ethic of fair play and stuff. So jumping around, I coached the Litvin kid, the one. And it was like Joey or David.
The younger's Davey.
Davey. Yeah, I coached Davey Litvin in soccer, and it was a real struggle to figure out like what to do. Should we move him up to inners when he was a high junior? Because I mean he could run around every single person on the field with no trouble.
Right.
So should he pass it? Should I tell him, all right, you can just score this point, or what? It was really confusing, and I forget what ended up happening, but he did not move up to the interleagues.
It's a real shame too, because what usually happens, even still, is you get the best person, and if they're best by a long shot, we typically do some kind of snake order, whether it's a draft or whether the commissioner and the counselors are making fair teams. And if you're doing that with someone like Davey or anyone who's so much better, then you give them their next best player is going to be like the 20th best player. And it's just like insane what you have to do to make these teams fair, and it's just not good for a kid like him. Like if he wants to eventually play D1 or move on at a higher level, like he needs like a normal soccer experience, and he's not going to get it past into like.
And let's say the ball does get stolen from him or he misses, and then the other team just has the entire the entire field.
It just can't be fun.
Yeah.
So that's why I was not good at soccer on purpose, because I didn't want that. No, I'm just kidding. I was like very average. But I want to circle back because I think you spoke to something. You had an advantage here. So starting young at camp is a huge factor.
Really?
Like in my opinion, if you come to camp, you started 06.
Yep.
So
nailed it.
10 years old, and you're jumping into like I don't want to say healthy, but it's like a non-toxic situation. It's 10-year-olds and a lot of guys were new that summer. I think Braundorf and Frank were also 06.
Rosenwasser and Gomer as well.
So you're not jumping into this group, this tight-knit group that's already formed and is like too cool for school to accept you. It's kind of like the first day of school in a new class. Like you're going in, they're going to be welcoming. But if you join at an earlier or a later age or grade, like it's really overwhelming. So if you came in as but you joined, let's say, high inner summer, I don't know if you'd have the same experience.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And also, not even just in the sports context, but I like to like explore my own. One memory that hit me a couple days ago was Justin Spike was our supervisor in inners, and we were doing our fort thing. I was like the connoisseur of like forts, setting up the sheets and blocking off our beds and in these interesting ways and stuff, and swinging around the rafters. I was very creative at making games that were other than sports. So like the memory that I had was the entire bunk left for some bullshit activity, not a league, and I hid in my fort until everyone left. And thinking back on it, like, why did I think that was okay? Why did I think I'd get away with that? But I sat in the middle of the bunk and just like absorbed the peace and quiet, which I guess I needed when I look back on it. It's weird to think about these memories. So many years later, and I see Justin Spike walking towards the bunk from outside. I'm like, oh shit. And he obviously sees me, but I run, and I dive into the closet on top of all the used laundry bags. And he comes in, and now he's standing over me, and I'm lounging on these laundry bags with a smile on my face, like, you caught me. He's like, what are you doing? It's like, I didn't want to go to that activity. But the things that I didn't want to do, I had creative outlets to do that. I explored the woods. I knew the different paths through the woods. One thing I did at home, I had a little bit of woods behind my house, and it was like there was a lot of poison ivy and a lot of thorns and a little creek, but I knew the paths to get through, and I explored it enough. So I did that at camp. Like I loved going in the woods. I loved finding exploring the wood lines that not a lot of people explored. I knew how to entertain myself in ways that weren't just like score the ball.
You're making me think of this very controversial, like this very contentious issue with camp right now, which a lot of the older counselors are angry about, and a lot of the younger kids just won't understand. But this kind of trade-off between being a sports camp or being that camp that's going to lose every time we play all the other camps now.
Yeah.
And we have this mix now of like really just unathletic kids that are weird and don't care about camp, and then like the big athletes that get angry at the others. And in a perfect world, I'd love to have a great mix of athletes and kids that can find their way through camp without needing sports. But this comes to play even in scheduling. So there's this debate that Matty Rowe always wants the double choice period when others would want the double leagues or one choice period and maybe like another bunk activity or something.
Yeah.
And I think something as small as that actually has like a huge effect.
I think it does too.
So we are now like, we get destroyed every time we play intercamp games against Saginaw and Green Lane now. It's pretty disappointing, but
well, I mean, why is that? Where do these kids come from? Is it?
I don't know. I don't know if we're recruiting wrong, if our program is wrong or what, but we just it's just not the same anymore. Like we
obviously you guys have stats on if someone visits, do they end up committing? Does it look like they're athletic kids that are observing and shying away?
I haven't seen the stats. I see the people that come on tours, and like you can just get a feel, because what we've been doing a lot lately is letting the kids come for a full night. Like they'll stay the day and sleep over and get picked up in the morning. They're like trying out camp.
Yeah,
we've had some athletic people come through, but I don't know. I think we haven't found like our competitive edge yet. Are we going to be a camp that a kid that loves sports is going to choose because he loves sports, or are we going to be the camp that's accepting of everyone and like I don't know, like a Leo Gordon can succeed at?
Leo Gordon was my first thought. Adon, like you know,
and we lost Leo Gordon. He doesn't go anymore. So we need to pick a side here. Like, are we going to be that camp that like anyone can go to and succeed, or are we going to be more on the sports side? And if that's the way, that's okay. You'll lose some alumni kids that are not, like Leo Gordon is an example, because he's not a big sports guy, so maybe camp's not for him. But if you can find a way to like make this program, this culture accepting of one way or the other, it'd be great. But I think you kind of just got to pick a side.
Yeah, I was Leo's counselor, and looking back on it, I have a shred of an idea of what I thought at the time.
Mm-hmm.
With those kinds of kids, I think I wish that we were more sports oriented
Mm-hmm.
and they had to deal with it, because the like asserting yourself into something you're not good at, and like the athletic part of it, like, you know, sports aren't just sports. It's believing in yourself. It's, you know, like taking on a challenge, like a physical challenge, and the camaraderie and helping other guys that aren't as good at the sport that you're good at. I think that's a really big part of it, and something that can't just be thrown away.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids that aren't good at sports can find those other outlets, but just leaning in that direction, I don't think is a good way to go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see moving ahead, like what the recruiting is like and how we're succeeding and what kind of makeup we have of our campers. Maybe it just goes in cycles. Maybe we'll get like a big athletic bunch coming through, but it's been a few down years in that sense. And I also think it's kind of just a changing of the times. Like, we used to have Speedy Morris come twice a week, and that was on your schedule. Speedy,
Yeah.
legendary basketball coach. He's probably dead when you're watching this. Like, even if you're watching this tomorrow, he's probably dead. No, but
Jeremy Bloom.
But even before that, like, you see pictures, like I saw on the Facebook alumni group. Are you in that group, by the way?
I don't have Facebook anymore.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so the alumni group, like, Rap posts 20 throwback pictures a week, which is another contentious issue in our group chat that were never featured in it, but that's a different story. So they always post pictures of like the 70s and 80s, and like, we had Wilt Chamberlain visit camp.
Of course he went there, but right?
What do you mean?
Didn't he go there?
No, I don't think so.
Who are the legends that went there?
Like, as campers, you mean?
I don't know. Don't we have some legends that went to camp?
I'm not sure, but Wilt definitely visited.
Mm-hmm.
We had like Harold Carmichael and like Bob Schultz, like all these. I think Schultz, Bob Kelly, both of them, the hockey players. So we've had like a bunch of.
Didn't we have like David Akers?
Akers came like 2003. Jameer Nelson was like recent. He was there on Nova Summer. So we've had in the past athletes come to camp, and it's like one thing for just the show of having athletes come, but like, we had so much more instruction in sports. And I remember doing soccer instruction. There would be an international hired as the soccer specialist, and I sucked at soccer, never played peewee or anything. So having that was good for me. Like, you did drills like dribbling in and out of cones. Now there's such this, like, I guess, attitude of these young campers, like, I don't want to do that because I don't do that at home, or like, I don't like that. They just gave
up on it.
They got rid of it because they want to make a program that appeals to the campers. So instead of the campers complaining like, I don't want to do soccer, I'm not going to do soccer, they just said, we're going to scrap soccer and try to make a program that makes you as happy as possible in an effort to pleasing everyone. I think it's kind of like a softening of society too. Like, it's probably not just a Quebec
Would you
thing.
call it the coddling of the American mind?
I would. By Jonathan. What is his name?
Jonathan Haidt.
Haidt, yes.
Yeah. Do you watch Rogan?
I don't.
You should. Well, if you ever do, you should check out Jonathan Haidt's interview on Rogan. He's a great guy. It's a great interview.
I do think it's indicative of like a societal change, but I do wonder if other camps are experiencing the same problem.
Mm-hmm. It would kind of be weird if they weren't, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, if you're saying we're getting smacked in intercamp games,
Yeah,
what's the atmosphere like during intercamp games? Is there an intensity, let's say with like TK or playoffs? How does it heighten to the levels that we know it can?
TK is an interesting one, and I think we should like use this as a good transition into talking about TK. But in the past few years, when we did have TK games, like real TK games, the intensity was definitely there. We
Mm-hmm.
just lost.
Mm-hmm.
We played Saginaw in 2018, and that was a really hyped up game because we had lost at Quebec in 2017. So that Temple wanted to come back as Nova and just like destroy Saginaw.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Saginaw. I think we lost 3-0. It was super intense, probably one of the most intense ever. Saginaw's equivalent of Nova wrote a letter to Quebec. I put it in the group chat a while ago. I don't know if you remember, but they wrote a letter to Quebec, to Cole Weinberg, and it talked about like such dirty, vile things about his sister and like how he's a midget and like needs to go through puberty, and it was just like it was really ridiculous. And they took that, he cried, and they took it as like, we are going to go into Saginaw and destroy them for this.
Did they send that letter before?
before, like a week or two before
Was
TK.
it manufactured?
What do you mean?
Did Weiser write that letter?
No, because it was postmarked from Wilmington, so it was Saginaw. That'd be funny if he did. It had some like giveaways that it was definitely from them. Like they mentioned kids' names at Saginaw that Cole knew from school or from Saginaw. So
Okay, yeah.
it was real. We went there. I think we lost all but like one
I still wanna
soccer game. Yeah, me too. That'd be funny. The intensity was there. We just lost, and then the following year, 2019, we played Cherry Hill East, like JV hockey, ice hockey team in our floor hockey on the crest. Like,
Wow.
there's no intensity there because it was just all respect. Like, we have nothing against you, random Cherry Hill dudes that are probably just having a normal summer at home and came to play hockey for a day.
They
like,
play hockey, you know?
and they
It's
only
just their
brought
game.
like 6 or 7 guys. So if we played 4 and a goalie they probably had 2 subs, maybe 1, and they got exhausted. Like, you know how hard those Crest Hockey Court games are. It's
Yeah.
super hot out. You see TK with their entire group like rounding the boards against like 5 or 6 guys that are
Yeah.
used to playing ice hockey. So
yeah.
it was like a surprisingly close game in the beginning. I think TK won like 5-1, but that's not cool. Like, that's not fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, that's my outside
Yeah,
point
and
of
for
view.
TK to play that, like TK, like you have an expectation of what that
Mhm.
game's going to be like. You have that unbridled anger and like, you know, that pent up, you know, bravado that you're ready to
Mhm.
explode on the other team. So if it's not cool, then it's a different culture.
Yeah, and I think of guys that were in Nova, they experienced both losses to Saginaw. So as low seniors and then Temple. So they want to go in Nova Summer and get like a real TK game, make up for it. And then they get a JV hockey team. And it's just a sad way to go out for them. I don't know. I mean, maybe if you asked them, they would be like, yeah, it was great. Like they still jumped in the lake after and everything. But it's like, you watch these TK games growing up and you're like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I wrote the other day, Rap did a Facebook post that was like, what's your favorite TK memory? When I was 8 years old, we went to Saginaw and Zach Paul got ejected in the TK game, was fighting. He waved goodbye to the guy and got ejected, and the best player on Saginaw got ejected. And like that, I was 8 years old and I was like, that's the coolest thing. Like, this is so intense. And I think we played Saginaw for the next like 6 years. So growing up watching that, and then you're finally Nova or finally in the senior division and you play a JV hockey team. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And especially seeing the court, going to Saginaw for one day out of a summer and stuff. And then you're there. Then you get into that court. I don't think I played when we ever went to Saginaw. I think I played 1 or 2 points of TK, and the second point I played, Matty Boy was on. So
our Nova had a very interesting TK experience in the sense that low seniors, we played Green Lane. It was a very normal TK. There was a good amount of running, like compared to the quote unquote old camp and old days. But that was the game where there was a fight that broke out, and the game was abruptly ended as Green Lane left our camp and knocked over some trash cans on the way out.
yeah, which wasn't satisfying.
Right. The game did not finish. A lot of us who were going to get in, because I think we were up reasonably big, that like everyone was going to get a shift,
Yeah.
did not get that chance. So you put in all that effort running and stuff, and you're part of the tradition. And it was cool for the first like little bit because it was a real game. We had Quebec all cheering us on. Game ends abruptly. Fine. Whatever. Like 1 year of TK was a pretty normal TK. Temple Summer.
Especially with the training, because that's a big part of it too.
Temple Summer, our relationship was obviously soured from the previous summer with Green Lane, so we were not going to play Green Lane again. Like, it was just not reasonable. They literally knocked over trash cans. Like,
Yeah.
it was, and so we played the Counselors. I'll come back to that in a second. I was the only one who did not play from the entire division that summer. Nova Summer, we come back, and we had the Saginaw hockey tournament, right? Separate from TK.
Yeah.
Then we come back for TK.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it was cool, definitely. And then TK was against the Interns, which was also like a fun game, but did not feel like TK.
Yeah.
So at least we had the supplement of the hockey tournament. And with the hockey tournament, you had the intensity, but something felt like weird about it. With the shirts, like it said like Saginaw hockey tournament or something on the shirts,
Yeah.
and you had like Saginaw basically was like, we'll play your TK, but we'll make all of our own rules and bring all these other camps in for show, because they had us play like Valley Forge Military Academy on that like basketball court, and we won like 12-0 or something. But going back to Temple Summer, so I wanted to talk about this because I feel like I got to set the record straight to some extent, but also
You hear
like,
that?
yeah, you got to like break down the culture here with TK. And Grossman made a good point the other day. He asked in a poll, is TK actually a good tradition? And the answer choices were like, yes, very special, or like, what was the other, like, no, I hate getting up in the morning to run, or something like that.
I don't know.
Temple Summer. So I knew we were playing the counselors. Everyone knew that like before TK happened. The coaches were Zaitz, Gelby, and maybe two others. And I was like, this isn't worth it. Cause like as someone, I was at camp since I was 8 in 2004. Like I knew TK at its best with like Zach Paul getting ejected against Saginaw and us winning every time, to coming down to playing counselors that were like really good, like the best counselor team ever. I mean, like Kozak and Jesse Goldberg. My brother was like good hockey player, like D1 lacrosse player, but not like it translates over enough. Sheard and all these guys. It's like, you're gonna make me get up early at 7 a.m. after we stay up late to like 1 every night.
After having the year before, we had a pretty authentic TK experience.
Right. So for me, I was like, I don't want to get up and get yelled at by like these farcical coaches. And I love Gelby and Zaitz as counselors and camp people. They're like hilarious, like two of the funniest Quebec people I've ever met. But like, it's just not TK. It's not TK. And like, I think it was seen as like pussying out, which I get it. Like, yeah, I didn't play TK. I didn't want to do this running for nothing. But for me, it was a matter of like, does the benefits of participating in this outweigh all of the hassle that goes into it? So waking up early and running just to appease like the social norms, and like, because I think it was actually I'm tooting my own horn here, but I feel like it's courageous to go against the rest of the division. It like takes guts to like pussy out of TK, because then you're going to be socially outcast for doing so.
Yeah, I'll take the other side of this when you're done.
Yeah, so I think for me, it was more like a logistical decision of like, I see what TK is here, and this isn't the TK that we know, and like, I won't be happy participating in this. Like, the only reason I can think of to do it is that I won't get made fun of for not doing it. And I've kind of always gone by the attitude of like, do things that make you happy, and like, don't do something just because others like pressure you to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still at camp after all these years, and I always felt like, wow, people were probably like, why are you still there? So for me with TK, I just wanted to do what made me happy, and like not participating in this like fake TK. I believe the counselors won like 10-1 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, it was just like, didn't want to do something that would be, I guess, like aggravating to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I took the other side of that because I still did it. I knew I wasn't going to play and everything, and I knew, like, the counselors, it wasn't the same as at camp, and, like, we did have an inflated idea that maybe we would win, but, you know, I had no idea, like, how that game was going to go, but for me, it was still a rite of passage kind of thing. Like, waking up early, there's some thrill of getting up the crest and killing yourself on the soccer field and all that, and like, you know, getting hit and getting to hit and getting to take just slap shots and stuff and getting hit with all this stuff. Like, there's some thrill of standing up to that challenge that was like a part of the actual game experience for me.
Yeah, I think for the immediate aftermath of it, I definitely had my regrets. Like, I think I got some dirty looks, or like when everyone was waking up, they're like,
of course.
like,
I mean, we had to.
Yeah, like, I don't. It was like expected. So,
Yeah.
I would have been surprised if it didn't happen. But I think I'm like at peace with it. I mean, it's a while ago. Like, I'm 24 now, so like looking back on like whether or not I participated in Team Quebec in Temple Summer is like,
When you're 15 years old.
yeah. So it's like I'm at peace with it now. I definitely had some problems in the beginning, just being the one out of probably like 45 people that didn't do it. It was tough at first, but I felt like a pussy at the time, and now I actually feel the other end of it. Like, it took a lot of courage to do that against everyone else's judgment.
Yeah, I can see that. And I can see how it would be a character building experience for you looking back on it. Was that a trend? What was the trend like going forward after? Honestly, you have a way better camp memory than me. What was the trend like moving forward with people participating in TK?
It really varies. I wouldn't say I was like a trailblazer by any means. Like some years everyone plays, some years you get like 5 people that opt out. Opt out's a weird thing for TK, but
Remember TQ, Team Quit?
yeah, and I think that was we may have been high inners.
All I remember was Adam Moss.
Yep. So they were low seniors. It would have been like Moss, Abelman, like Zach Brand, like that group.
Denenberg? I don't know.
Maybe. It was like 5 of the low seniors just didn't play. And
Yeah.
the crazy thing is that was a normal TK year. They played Green Lane.
That was, yeah. And
So
then they played cards. They
Yeah.
set up like a card table.
Yeah. So that one, I would never have opted out because that's what we looked up to as kids, is that normal TK experience. So
So your opting out was different than that opting out.
for me, it felt like I evaluated what was on the table here, and I said, like, this isn't for me. This isn't the TK that I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
For them, it was like, if I was in their shoes, I 100% would have did TK. I did it in 2010, and I did it in 2012 when we had like relatively normal experiences. So
That's interesting.
yeah, because at least when we were in Nova, we had the Saginaw hockey tournament, and we had the interns, which is a winnable game with real coaches. We had actual coaches. It wasn't Gelby and Zaitz yelling at us in the morning to run. You know,
Well, that's a contentious thing to say. We had Nash.
True.
But
Yeah, I think we had my brother and someone else as well. I remember we had the 40th anniversary patch.
yeah.
So that was kind of prideful as well to like say, okay, this is the 40th year. I had no doubt I was going to participate in Nova Summer in that. But I don't think, circling back to your original question, it was like a trend moving forward. You have some people opt out, some don't. It's also just, it's like a shell of what it used to be at this point. I mean, like you said, Nash coaches every year now, and they've definitely gotten away with like the soft society now. Like there is not as much running, if any. I mean, I haven't been up
Well,
there. but-
let's try to recall what we did.
yeah.
Low senior summer.
So I definitely remember the first day. Like we go up there, you stretch on the court. Everyone, like all 45 of you in
Yeah.
the court, circled around. The coaches arrive, and you're lucky if you get back in the court that day. That first day, they try to like set the bar. Like you're gonna do this, you're gonna go hard, and if you don't, you're not getting back in the court. And
So from the court, you go directly up that small hill onto
So
the soccer field.
that day, we went to the far soccer field, like the Crest softball field, and they made us run there first. And we were just doing kind of like
yeah, we did, didn't they?
we were just doing like full length sprints. Like I think there may have been
right.
there may have been like a group 1 and a group 2, and that you went, you came back, you got like a very short rest until the other group was done. You just kept repeating, and we did that a few times. We did some other runs where we were all linking arms, and you had to run. And I remember vividly, someone said slow down to try to like make sure everyone is in one line, and the coaches were like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like, am I allowed to curse on this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like, run faster. It's like, damn. Like, okay, so this is like a team building thing because all 45 of you have to run at the same pace, but you can't slow down to get the slow people. And there's like some fat people at camp that can't keep up. So, like that felt like you were part of something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And that was awesome. Like it sucked in the moment. It was probably like 100 degrees and it's sweaty, and there was people puking. Like I remember probably like 5 people puking to the point where you're at the water fountain and people were like, "Don't drink too much, like you'll throw up."
Yeah. My memory of expectations going in, I always heard this horror story where you have to do all this running on the soccer field, you never get back on the court, and you get 1 cup of water, and you can either drink it or pour it on
Yep.
your head. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. But
That's kind of the mystique of TKs. You hear these crazy stories. I remember
Yeah.
Josh Weiser himself, who now owns the camp, is like Coach Blood, they called him. And he comes up, he has a hockey stick, and on the edge of the stick is a TK shirt. And he says, if you're doing this just for the fucking shirt. And he lights it on fire with a lighter right in front of everyone.
that's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like
Yeah.
a super cool, like mystical story.
And
about
then
TK.
like having your coach be the enemy, but also motivate you to work harder. And then at the end, it comes together
Mhm.
where they're pushing you forward and you feel better for having been pushed in that.
Definitely.
That I mean, it really does tie around to, is it a sports camp or is it a general camp?
Yeah. And I think for the good of the camp, it needs to come from the top, where if TK goes hard like they used to with like the crazy, almost, I don't want to say hazing, but like that kind of energy that's up there.
Cultish.
Yeah, it's like,
I mean, it's like the movie Miracle, you know?
There are some elements that I've heard of in the past where like Josh drove around in a golf cart and they had to chase him, or like your knuckles are like on the court burning. Like I would consider that hazing, I guess. But since you can always like opt out, I don't know. But for me, if it starts up the top with TK starting to get more intense and beating other camps, and like these little kids look up to Nova and they want to play hockey and they want to go hard and hustle and everything they do. So I would love to see that happen. I don't know if it's realistic anymore.
Yeah. I remember another memory was, I remember a memory. We were on the closer soccer field and we had to do piggyback rides, and I was with Griffin and he gave me one full length of the soccer field, came back, and I was like, dude, I can't do it. He was like, come on, get on my back. So I rode on his back, and the whole way I had this like overwhelming sense of gratitude and like I'm cheating the system. Like I feel bad, but this is something I just can't do. But it was like a really overwhelming sensation with those mixture feelings of being grateful, but also feeling like I'm cheating it a little bit.
And then another one I remember is they basically like, you want to get on the court today? You want to play hockey? Go get it. And they throw the hockey balls. We're on the upper soccer field. They literally threw, you had a line of like, maybe probably like 6 lines across, single file. Whoever was in the front of the line, they threw the hockey ball and you had to sprint and get it and bring it all the way back. And people were like diving in the itchy grass to get the ball. And it's like, what a stupid thing. Like taking a broader perspective, like running on a soccer field to go get a hockey ball to bring it back at a camp that we pay a shitload of money to go to. It's like, on the outside, it's funny, but on the inside, it's like, you're part of something that's serious, and it's a tradition, and it's awesome. Like, it's really cool. Yeah.
And I mean, one thing that randomly just entered my mind was the introduction of like cell phones and iPads and touchscreen stuff. Because before, this is just a crazy segue, but before we always had the Nintendo DS, and that was one thing, and PictoChat. And I remember when I was a counselor, I was like, just PictoChat or something. They're like, PictoChat? These little kids like, PictoChat? You think I'm going to PictoChat? And I was like, wow, that's a huge, I felt old. It was like a real generational leap. But do you think that has anything to do with it, with the immersion into the technology allows kids to not really go explore the world physically?
I think it does outside of camp for sure, because they're so immersed in technology and then they come to camp. But they're so strict on technology at Quebec now.
Really?
To the point where you can't have anything in the bunk. I mean, the counselors will still sneak their phones in the bunk, but there's no Game Boys allowed. No Nintendo Switch, no Nintendo DS, PSP, like any of that.
God, if I had a Switch at camp.
Oh my God. Like I remember when we were younger.
It's a console, you
the
know?
OD.
You play Rocket League on that
the
thing.
counselor on duty would come in and say, like, who has a Game Boy SP? Because that was the cool thing at the time.
Yeah.
You give it to them, they go and sit on the porch in the lawn chair playing SP the rest of the night. Like that was the thing. Now the counselors just talk. And I think it's not really a bad thing in that sense. Like those are some of the best times at camp, is just sitting on the benches outside at night or on someone's porch in the like tight group of chairs, like trying to be quiet if the kids are asleep. But I think technology's effect like outside of camp is more impactful on the way campers are inside. I do think it could be beneficial if they started allowing like Game Boys back in camp. Just like the technology is almost too advanced now with, like you said, like the Switch is basically a console. So
very interesting.
Yeah.
Hard cut. I don't know. I kind of derailed the TK conversation.
It's all good.
A couple of the things. I was wondering what it's like for people to visit camp. Do they snap back into their personality, or is it kind of weird revelation of this is where I was as a kid, and they kind of remove themselves, just chill in wraps? Do they talk about camp? Is it kind of weird? What's it like for people to visit camp as you've been, older at camp and facilitated those visits?
I think flashes of their personality like come out in a way, but there's almost this effect of, oh, like let's laugh about all the things that we did when we were there. And I don't want to say they're too cool for it at all. It's almost just like, haha, those were the days. Like not talking as if they're above it, but as if they're past it.
Yeah.
I even asked in the group chat, I think last year, maybe the year before, I was like, yo, is anyone coming for Alumni Day? And you were like, nah, that's an every 2-year thing. I was like, okay. And everyone liked it. They're like, yeah, he's right. So I think there's this element of like great nostalgia and respect and love for camp and the times, but like people move on. They go to their jobs, and like summer camp's just like a little thing that they did. I think it'll always be a part of them, but I think when they come to visit, they can't like immerse themselves fully in like, oh, I love camp. I wish I was here the whole summer.
Yeah. Yeah. It is weird when I look back on it, how we didn't have any responsibilities. Well, especially as campers, like they kept us moving and whatever, but there was never like, if you didn't want to do something, you didn't really have to do it.
Which is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's how you get the kids that are like, oh, I don't want to play. I'm just going to...
Yeah, and then you have to draw the line somewhere.
Right. And that's a huge problem. We have kids... We've had this one new kid 2 years ago who arrives, and he literally wouldn't move. Like, he steps off the bus, and they're like, all right, come on, we're going to go check out your cabin. And he's just like, no. And starts, like, pedaling his foot like a horse. Like, it was the weirdest thing. We're like, come on. It's like, where do you draw the line of like, no, like you have to do this or you're getting punished. And the other side is they're paying to come to this camp and we need to give them a good experience. And it's like, it's so difficult to manage disciplining kids, but also like making it an enjoyable experience for that their parents paid for. And I see it a lot. Like I see the way it's reflected. Like I'm in grad school to be a teacher, starting student teaching next week at your old school district. And it's like really challenging to manage behaviors because we're not really trained to do so as a counselor at all. I mean, orientation's a lot of like, don't use your cell phone. If a camper's homesick, here's what you do. If a camper's bullying, here's what you do. But like, how do you manage a camper that's like doesn't want to participate in the program? Truth is, I don't really know.
Yeah. It really was like, we were just like a tribe, like an old hunter-gatherer tribe. We were 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds in charge of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. What do you do? Whatever the hell you want.
With a plethora of health conditions. There's so many problems.
Yeah, you do whatever the hell you want. Like, if you want to have fun, have fun. If you want to be disciplinary, like, go for it, man. Like, it really was, it was set in motion. And then a bunch of children, created these experiences. They created the inside jokes. They created the hierarchies. They created the activities. If Nova 15 was into mini golf, everyone was into mini golf. Right. Where did that come from? That didn't come from upper staff. The upper staff built the mini golf course, but it was up to the children and that 16-year-oldedness to make a game like Slook or a word like Slook. And I remember like the Shia LaBeouf thing. Like why did I do that? I don't know.
I think that's one of the hardest parts about being an older, like a staff member at camp is managing. Like you were just a camper the year before. Now you're going to come in and this is your first job for many of us. Like it is a job, even though it's still camp. Finding that transition between like I grew up here and did all this stuff, and now I am in charge of a group of young people's well-being. It's like really hard to manage. Like we all did an excellent job of showing these kids what camp is. Like our Nova was one of the better ones in terms of like making it our own, like coming up with doing all these unique things that we weren't doing for anyone else. We were doing it for ourselves to have a good time, but it just like kind of...
And for the campers to see the camaraderie and the leadership and the creativity.
Right.
It's invaluable. You can't you can't manufacture that.
Right. And I have no doubt that we all did a good job, and I think most interns come in and they're able to provide that aspect of it. But on the other end, it is still a job, and it's a very important job of looking after someone's children. And I think when we're older and all have kids, like we will kind of get a greater appreciation for that. Like, okay, like I hope he's counselor. Like when we are not at camp and our kids are, we're gonna be like worried about our kids.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a tricky balance there of like knowing what to do with campers in the professional sense versus like I know how to make these kids have a good time.
Yeah. And then that ties back into what it feels like this overarching conversation is about is the intensity and the tradition of camp versus the inclusion that camp can provide.
Yeah, and I'm always interested by like the way that society changing affects camp, because camp's kind of like its own bubble, but it's still going to be impacted by the way that people in the world are changing. Like you're getting different kinds of people coming to camp. The parents are more overbearing now. It used to be like, here's just a minor example. If I wanted a phone call for my birthday, like they would give me a phone call. Now people are just like want a phone call and they're like, yeah, we'll give you a phone call, like for nothing, because
That's crazy.
It's like the parents are more homesick, not homesick. They like miss their kids than the kids are homesick. So
I never wrote a letter to my parents for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
I got letters every day. I'm like, cool, I can see what you're up to. I don't,
right,
I'm at camp. Thanks.
Right. My mom always said, like no letters is a good thing. Like no news is good news, because it means you're having such a good time. If there was a problem, you would write a letter and be like, I'm homesick, or like, I hate this kid.
It's a good point. Yeah.
So, in some ways, like you can learn a lot about society by like seeing changes in camp over time.
Yeah. We really did see you can't be in a hockey court without shoes.
Mm-hmm.
That and the helmet thing, that was massive. That was a huge change.
The technology as well is a huge deal. That's a societal thing as well, because there's
the restrictions of technology.
Yeah, because it was harmless using Game Boys back in the day, but now with technology expanding to where like little kids are getting cell phones at age 8, or like they're so used to internet. I mean, hell, everyone's virtual learning right now, so you can't come into camp expecting to use any of these devices because they all have internet connection, and it also just takes away from the experience. But like the parents are much more strict. Like they don't want their kid doing this or like being privy to this or seeing this. I mean, another example is like when you go to the movies and you're in juniors, you have to see a PG movie. It's like, imagine as a 17-year-old seeing Minions 2 when like Spider-Man, like the new Spider-Man's out. It's the worst. So
yeah, I remember with our DSs, Gomer found an area under one of the Perkiomen and Pines cabins. It kind of got elevated as the ground sloped down, so you fit yourself under this cabin, like spiders crawling around you from the underside of this wooden cabin. You're in mud. There, right in the corner of that cabin, there was Wi-Fi.
It's amazing.
And so we would play Mario Kart online and like
so
try to
good.
get ranked up.
I remember the Iron Pigs game. I want to say like 2000.
Oh, that was a huge place for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so Leo Gordon had his massive iPad. Like before iPads were like the minis and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's on Instagram speaking to his mom via comments on someone else's Instagram. It was like the weirdest thing. And like that was symbolic of like the downfall. Like, okay, we have to be strict on technology or stuff like that will happen. I mean, we all had our iPods on Barnstorming and used the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Shout out the Kirshners. That place was fucking beautiful. That was like the last good Barnstorming, which is another example we can talk about of camp changing. And that's not just a Quebec thing. You know what? May I transition to Barnstorming?
Yeah, do it.
So Barnstorming, traditionally you would go to another camp, maybe 2, sleep at that camp, and play hockey and basketball against them and some other camps. That's unheard of in today's society. The liability element of it, of taking on these other children, having them come to your camp, because there's no insurance covering like strangers to come in unless you sign some crazy stuff before Quebec, which I doubt that we did. So
part of me thinks that we did have some opting out availability.
Yeah.
I can't remember though.
I just can't imagine like any camp hosting another camp overnight.
Yeah, no
anymore.
way. No way.
Right. So that barnstorming hasn't been legit in.
And then we got to go out to like, food and
Mhm.
stuff. It was
That was like
huge.
one of the best times of Nova Summer.
It sets Nova
and then
Summer
by proxy,
apart.
like my entire Quebec experience. I mean,
yeah, you get the camaraderie of having the experience of like, I mean, in high school, let's say you're kind of tight with your grade, but if you're in another state, if you see anyone from your school, you're like, what the hell? We went to the same school. Oh my God, you feel that connection. And if you're in another country and you see someone from your state, you're like, oh my God, we're from the same state.
Right.
So the camaraderie of taking on another camp, going to another environment, it does something really special to the relationships and the camaraderie.
I even think there was some intrigue on the rest of Quebec's part. Like, oh yeah, Nova and Wellesley are off barnstorming. Like, I'm excited to hear like that they won. They come back and they won like the whatever the cup name is, like Oswego Cup or whatever it is.
Yeah, you feel the Nova and Wellesley are out of camp. It's
Yeah.
like there's some part of camp that's missing.
Right.
You get people playing stickball, wiffle ball, or whatever we called it
Yeah.
on outside Nova, which again, just it's another spirit of camp, the
Right.
16-year-oldness. It's not anything that the upper staff set up.
So let me update you on state of barnstorming right now. So even ours, which was amazing, like I wouldn't change our barnstorming experience for the world. We didn't sleep at a camp. We slept at Anna Kirshner's parents' ski resort in their like equivalent of a rec hall, which was fantastic. I mean, like not to dick eat too hard, but like there's so many funny things that happened. But also like the lake. We went to the lake and we're like looking at the stars at like 3 a.m. You had the 2 toilets right next to each other in the one room. The showering with like 4 of us at once. So like hilarious memories. But after that, you had the following summer, we had Emily Kirshner. So they did the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And then from there on, I don't think there's been one normal barnstorming experience in the sense that like they've been all day trips and maybe some have not had barnstorming at all. And like last year, there was no barnstorming, no shirts, no trip. There was the one year of the mystery bus tour. I don't recall what year it was, but they literally went to like Camel Beach and got shirts that said mystery bus tour. So barnstorming is dead.
It's trash.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? It was barnstorming when we met Deacon Jones.
Our bus driver, Deacon Jones. Yeah, he's still around. I still see him every once in a while, actually.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. He's a cool guy. What about the trips?
Trips are actually probably better now.
Really?
They're still the same core. Like you get Hershey Park, you get the Iron Pigs, you get like the movie trip. We don't do Zerns because Zerns closed.
What?
So it went fully out of business, and like the property was up for sale for like $1 million.
Wow.
Which is like
Huge.
Not that
Huge
much money
news.
for the amount of property. It was
It's
like
a lot.
big area. Yeah.
Where was Zerns? You know the city?
I want to say like Royersford, but that's probably wrong. It was like a 10-minute drive from Schwenksville. So no Zerns, but we replaced it with what is now being referred to at camp as Ferns or fake Zerns. It's the Quakertown Flea Market, I think, or Farmers Market. Q-Mart is like its real name. So that one's pretty cool. It's like an air-conditioned, less sketchy version of Zerns, which kind of takes the luster of Zerns away. Luster's a weird word for it, but like Zerns was so cool because it was so bad.
Yeah, it was really trashy.
Like Les Weiser described it best by saying like, what's the only place there you can find like your brother's uncle's sister? It was like the weirdest explanation. And the fact that they have to tell the counselors in the meeting, don't purchase guns or pets. It's like, and you're sending 8-year-olds to this place. So that was a fascinating trip.
Yeah.
But Ferns is just a nicer, like air-conditioned version of Zerns. And then
How much more upscale is it? Is it like you'd go there, or is it?
I wouldn't ever want to go there. It's really not nice. It's just more closed off, so it could be air-conditioned. I'd say if Zerns is like an F on the like cleanliness rating,
Yeah.
Ferns is like a C. Yeah. It's all right. But they started doing these divisional trips, which are like a relatively new thing. I think you were there for that a little bit. So the juniors in the past few years went to like a Philadelphia Union soccer game. The inners or seniors, well, seniors or super seniors at the time. One of them went to like Circus LA. And then someone went to a Phillies game one year.
Cirque du Soleil or
Yeah.
what?
I just pronounced it wrong.
Oh.
Cirque du Soleil, yeah. Cirque du Soleil. Yeah. It's not Cirque du Soleil. Yeah, so one of those divisions went there, and then like medieval times, someone went to medieval times. So they started adding these divisional trips that I think are like a pre-visiting day move to say like, hey mom, like camp's great. I went to the Philadelphia Union game. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So they basically just like have the same classic trips, but they add like a surprise divisional one in addition to the post-visiting day trips.
When's the divisional one?
In the past, it's been like the week before visiting day.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And,
There's also the
yeah.
new pilot program at Quebec, which is like the first campers that are new, and they're usually like 8 or 9 years old. They come for 2 weeks. It's a trial program of camp. And some of the trips have been moved earlier so that those kids get those trips.
Okay, yeah.
So
Is that weird having kind of temporary temp campers?
it's, I wouldn't say weird, like, because since they're starting the same time as everyone else, it's pretty normal, but it's frustrating logistically. Like, you have to, so many things are considered. Like, they're going to leave first. So when you put their bags in the mansion house attic to eventually pack them to leave,
Yeah.
you have to like strategically place them in a spot that's easy to access. And then like they'll be leaving and you'll be packing during canteen one night because they're about to leave the next morning. And it's just like it's very stressful logistically. And you know how those bunks get messy. So like trying to pack
Unbearably, yeah.
2 8-year-olds to leave the next morning while also like your counselor might be on a day off and you have to like watch your kids at color leagues or something. It's a lot. It's a hassle, but it's a really good thing. And I think a lot of camps are going to start doing it too. But yeah, going back to the trip. So like after visiting day, you still have like the juniors go to Camel Beach. Inners are typically like Baltimore, New York, or DC. And seniors are a little bit further, but never Canada again. I think we ruined that for everyone.
Yeah. Well, we didn't ruin it for everyone.
Right. I say we very loosely there.
Yeah. It's always a great story, though, if Niagara Falls ever does come up in conversation, because I get to say that I went there but didn't go there. That was so funny.
We had a great extended view of Niagara Falls.
Yeah, temporary. Yeah, going across the border, but like sitting in the bus, the security guy came in and took off whoever that was who...
Randy.
Yeah, Randy who
Romero.
didn't bring his passport, identification. So they check him out. We're sitting in the bus for an hour and a half, maybe even longer. He comes back in, then we had to turn around, so we had to go across the bridge, then back around, and we're sitting there again for an hour and a half. So,
And then because of all that, by the time we got across the second time, it was rush hour traffic from there to our hotel.
yeah, oh god. And then we had tickets for Maid of the Mist, and we didn't get to use it because of all that shenanigans.
And the other bus that did get across on time, they didn't do Maid of the Mist either, even though they could have. Because I guess that would have been unfair or something, but they got to like tour around Niagara. So that was, I remember like being so miserable. Like we were coming up with any game you can, any classic bus game, like 99 Bottles or like, all right, I'll say an athlete's name and you have to do a next athlete. Like all those games. We had all of our visiting day food at least, but in hindsight, like that's a funny memory to look back on. It sucked
and
at the
like
time.
the movies up there.
Yeah, like we made do with it, but that was fucking brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of annoying. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see Niagara
Me too.
Falls.
I still haven't. But it made me think of another point. So you asked me when I said we, and you said we, because it really wasn't me or you per se that was the cause of the problems on this trip. And it speaks to another thing that Arnova is infamous for, which is the last night of camp. Now, I wanted to get into this eventually, but it still comes up to this day. Even though like campers when we were younger, campers that were young when we were
2020.
Yeah. Campers still talk about it like, oh, you're the Nova that like shat in the pool. Or like you're the Nova that drove the golf carts around. It still comes up and I still get
Who
shit.
says that? Like current Novas or current 8-year-olds?
I wouldn't say 8, but like they had to be someone that was there when it happened or maybe like a year or two after. There's like a lag. So you get little kids like 10 and older, I'd say, that are like, oh yeah, like I heard a Nova 12. So I have no regrets. I gotta say, like I wasn't really I didn't shit in the pool. I was there. I was there I saw like three of you, I don't know if you, but three of you Nova 12 trying to and failing, and then CG success. Like, so good job, CG. I didn't drive the golf carts that night, but like, I'm happy all that stuff happened. Like, it's awesome. It leaves its lasting legacy. At the same time, I still get shit from like Rap and Weston. They're like your Nova was good 48 days of the year or the summer. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, stop putting this on me because it wasn't me. I know. Like,
Yeah.
so
And what? The 48 days wasn't good enough to like offset
also
a last day of camp?
And then I come back and I say I didn't do any of that. Like, it wasn't me. And they're like, it was you. Like, you're part of it. You're part of Nova 12. And I'm like, so me as a 16-year-old who's like middle of the social chain of Nova 12, I'm supposed to stop other people my age that are like cooler than me and say like, don't do drugs, or like
They're drinking.
Do you know what I did that night? I remember so vividly. We were in a debate. Barrett and Grossman and I were like deciding, what do we do with Nigel? Nigel was the mount to deer head in our bunk for 2 years.
Which we got at Zerns.
Got at Zerns. Great purchase. Like,
Yeah.
I was hilarious. So my belief was Nigel lives and dies with Nova 12. So he has to go. Like, his time has come to an end. We burn him. Barrett says, no, we're going to keep him in Nova for like forever, and it'll be known as like Nova 12's contribution. Both great choices, but like, we were very firm in our beliefs. Like, I think we acknowledge like the reasonable nature of both sides, but we're like, no, like, I want to burn it. No, I want to keep it. And for some reason, I guess everyone else was too busy like doing whatever they were doing to like not join in this debate. So since I wanted to burn it, I was like, we had a campfire later that night, like 4 a.m.
I remember I was there for that, and
Yeah.
I was there for this ceremonious sacrifice.
Barrett kept hiding it from me. Like,
Really?
one of the times was under Nova, which is a dark tunnel you do not want to go under. One of them was like under the infirmary. So I was in like this one-on-one scavenger hunt with Barrett to try to get Nigel. While everyone else is like drinking, doing drugs, driving the golf carts, shitting in the pool. So I'm like in a deer head scavenger hunt. Yeah, I mean, the legacy there is amazing. Like, maybe 5 people look down on us being like the highest up people, but everyone else is like, you are the coolest Nova for all that stuff. Like, there's legends of your Nova. So I have no regret being a part of it, but I do, I guess, like, get annoyed when they're like, you did this or you did this because
Yeah.
you were in that Nova.
Yeah, and I remember the fire. The sun was coming up at that point, and we had the like gasoline and whatever. We're pouring it over, and at the time, like, we realized how dangerous it was to be pouring out gasoline from a tank of gasoline.
Yep.
And it smelled horrendous,
Yeah.
and I had a cough all the next day. It was not optimal, but definitely a great memory.
I think in hindsight, I actually wish I participated in the shenanigans more. Because, like, at 16,
I was given Ritalin, and I was told that it keeps you up, and I was tired.
I think
And
Browndorf said the same thing about, like, Griffin gave him Adderall or Ritalin or something. There was, of course, like, someone took the keys from Les's office and took the golf carts and did donuts. And it wasn't just Nova 12 involved. Like, counselors, like, girls were involved. I mean, we get all the flack for it, understandably, but
Yeah.
age 16, I was definitely like a little bitch. Like, I was like not drinking or smoking, like, even during the school year. So I was like staying away. Like, I didn't tell anyone not to. I'm not going to be like, yo, like, don't do that shit. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, that's just not me. In hindsight, I wish I was like part of it more. I thought it was like
Me
looking back-
too. I was along those lines, and Cabaret was the first time
Were you crew?
I was just part of the crew.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in the bunk. It was like 3 or 4 people. Can't even remember who, but it was like the tiniest sip of alcohol
Yeah.
at vodka or something, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's what it tastes like." And then I was pretending to be drunk. I was playing ping pong in the rec hall, like, intensely. And
What a weird
I think I came up with the name
crew only. What a weird tradition it is, because that wasn't a Nova 12 thing. The drinking at Cabaret was like an unofficial tradition for years.
Never knew it.
Right, and I think that was just something that's like people did, and I don't really understand it. Like, what a weird thing. Like, how are we getting alcohol in for cabaret in particular?
Yeah.
And it came down to like when the parents came to pick up the bags for the kids to go home, they would just someone would give them alcohol.
That's wild.
Genius, yeah. I don't think with Nova,
Unstoppable.
I think it still goes on a bit with counselors.
Yeah.
So I will say, with all of the like pussification going on, there actually has been some good developments. I was saying in the group chat before, but like the curfew got moved back to pre-Nova 12 time, so it's now midnight. They're very lenient on phone use. And
If there was anything closer to camp, like if there was a bar that was, across the street and down the corner from camp, I could at least see where they were coming from. But
right.
man, like we had to drive to Limerick Diner.
Yeah, and I think it was really just to punish us. Like there wasn't really a logical like, yes, if we take away 30 minutes, then they have to blah blah. No, it was just like we're gonna spite them. Like I don't think there was any other reasoning that went into that decision. So I'm glad that it's going back to 12 now, because then it gets them to stop dragging us a bit. But yeah, I think in many ways our camp's actually fairly lenient. Like I've heard of other camps that have breathalyzer testing upon arrival back to camp, or
Yikes.
drug testing even before you come to camp. So imagine like not being able to smoke before going to camp.
Yeah.
So definitely we love to like talk shit on camp when we're there, like, oh, like I hate this or that, and it's like then you look back on like a holistic view and it's like we actually had it pretty good.
Yeah, we really did. And I mean, the things that separated old camp from new camp were violence.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this may have been like the culminating, this past summer may have been like the final end to that. It's kind of sad that it works out this way, but basically for those watching, like there's been a history, not just with camp, not Quebec, not camps in general, but childcare. Like some families still do it with like hitting their children, like spanking, whatever. And that kind of happened at Quebec too. And I'm sure other camps throughout the 80s and 90s and so on. And
The wiffle ball bat named Excalibur.
yeah, definitely is like a form of like managing behavior, but also just like people loved it. I remember people would be like, don't hit me.
Yeah, there was the game where they would play the song and you'd have to sing the lyrics.
Yeah.
And like if you got a lyric wrong, you get hit. But you step up to the plate to that game. Like that was again like another rite of passage. It's it's just a game, and like you weren't like rupturing kidneys. It was
it's just like a smack. Like,
Yeah.
you might leave like a mark for 5 seconds and go away.
Yeah.
At most, you're getting a bruise for like one day.
it's not fun. The wiffle ball bat was
No, it's yeah. But it was interesting because I think like most people liked it, but the problem now is that if one kid does not like it, then they tell their parents that person's seen as like child abuse, even though it's to all 12 others, it's not. But to that one kid who's a bit too sensitive, it is.
Yeah, and then the heat of the moment thing where you're 6 weeks into camp, like the children don't really feel like, the line between children and adult gets really blurred when you're into camp.
Right.
Um,
I remember though,
No.
our first summer as counselors, we got that sheet at the meeting. It's like counselors should not do blah blah blah, and it like listed like 30 things. We're like, Sheer did every single one. It was like hitting, cursing, biting. Like he did all of this. But yeah, I think that you've seen the death of that at camp this past summer. We had some issues with it, and I think it kind of sets the bar that like we have zero tolerance of this.
was it counselors that were drunk?
No.
It was bog standard,
Yep.
10 p.m. kind of thing.
Yep. Well, probably like, yeah, that's it. That's right. So just, yeah, it's like a zero tolerance. And like, I'm hopeful that that other counselors like take that as a wake up call, even though I don't necessarily agree with abolishing it. You kind of have to.
Yeah. How about the bunko boxing? Hockey helmets on the head, hockey gloves.
That still happens
Fight.
a little bit. Yeah. Every once in a while. It's never like super legit. Like when we had, I feel like a fighting ring in ours, and then I feel like we had some good matchups. There was the classic Penfield versus Sandberg.
Yeah.
The Oast versus CG fight was a notable one because I think CG's helmet came off and Oz kept punching anyone.
Yeah,
But yeah, there is
I got messed up by Gomer.
it still happens every once in a while. Yeah, but no one's good at fighting. You know, they like there can be big kids, but they've no boxing experience, so they're just like the bad form and everything.
Yeah. I remember 2 memories that are, you know, hard cut to different topic,
Yeah.
and then another just question and then going off. So, I think it was maybe high inner summer, somewhere around there. One of the last nights, maybe cabaret, we were spraying our hands with Axe
Mm-hmm.
and or like spraying like a table and then lighten it, and then we were like, someone should spray their hands. So I did that. I sprayed my hand until it was dripping, and Braundorf had his video camera at that point, so somewhere there exists a video of this.
Yeah, the infamous Braundorf's video camera that like has so many good memories, but like where is it?
Yeah. So, yeah. Spray. My hand is like dripping wet, and I shake it, and they're like, don't shake it. Okay, so lights shut off, the lighter flick, you see the light, and then whoosh, my hand ignites in flames. And it's like there for a second, and I'm like shaking it off. Lights turn on. Like, oh my God, that fucking hurt. And I say, like, are you still in pain? I'm like, yeah. And what happened, there was like skin that bubbled up. I had 2nd or 3rd degree,
Yeah.
I think 3rd degrees to the bone. So I had like 2nd degree burns, chemical burns. And I stayed up all night because when my hand wasn't in water, it felt like the skin was being singed off. It was this real sharp pain around my whole hand, kind of like a bee sting or like a poison ivy, where it,
Right.
like it stings on the surface. So I kept putting I should have told this story second actually, because it's a good segue into whatever. But I kept putting my hand in cups of water, but then I had to go walk to the infirmary to get ice at some point because the water would heat up.
Mhm.
It would it wouldn't get cold at some point. So I had to at first I kept going back and forth to the sink, getting cups of water, and I was watching Avatar, the Blue People on my iPod, staying up all night because I couldn't go to sleep. So I'll go to the infirmary, and as I'm walking there, 2-3 in the morning, I see like a flashing strobe from the woods, and I got freaked out.
Yeah.
So I turn around and go back, and just kept staying up until I eventually passed out. But that was pretty, fun thing. And then the next year, Low Senior, we were on our overnight in the woods out there by the lake, and that was when we were bashing frogs' heads in and cooking them over the
Normal things, yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the nature people were always the weirdest people at camp.
It's perfect.
The
Like I wouldn't
nature
want it any
experts.
other way. You know?
Yeah. Brad.
Yep.
That's who it was
Classic,
at that
yep.
point.
He's a legend.
I don't know where that name, all these memories, you
Mhm.
say it and then it's like, where'd this memory come from? So bashing the frogs' heads and cutting off the legs with the knife and putting it over the fire and then eating it. And it was like chicken. It's really crazy. That's a cool memory. But then we were looking for frogs and we found a snake.
Mm-hmm.
Bashed the snake's head in, and we were like, how about this? Can we eat this? And Brad's like, probably not, maybe. And so they're like, we gotta have someone eat it. Someone eat it. So Griffin's like, yeah, I'll do it. And he's like, no, I can't do it. And I'm like, I'll do it. So I take the snake and the tail, bite the tail, and it was like the fat of a steak. And as I chewed, like the muscles writhed,
Ugh.
and I got it down. All well and good. Also, I think on the infamous video, and then all well and good. Fell asleep. We all woke up in the morning really early from the sun, and Sam Golden, like CG, I think were the 2 ones that didn't wake up.
We purposely left him there, yep.
We purposely left them there. We walked all the way back to the bunk really quietly, and we're all giggling and stuff. We're seeing them sleep back there. We got back to the bunk, and then my stomach started disagreeing. So I'm leaning over, sitting on the edge of the bed, leaning over, just like in so much pain. And then all of a sudden, whack! I feel on the back of my back from the baseball or the wiffle ball bat, because everyone got a taste
Oh, yeah.
of that punishment for leaving them up there. I'm like, I have food poisoning from eating a raw snake, and I just got like vicariously punished for this little prank. But I kept it down. I didn't throw up. I kept down this snake, and that was those two memories are fun stories to tell.
That was that time that Sam Golden came in and did that. That was different because all the other times you're like playfully hitting, like clean your bed. That was like pure anger. Like he comes in like actually angry that we left him there. So like he hit really fucking hard there.
Yeah, that was a different kind of hit.
Yeah. But part of your story makes me think of, what is Quebec's obsession with fire? Like, I don't even mean rope burn's one thing, like whatever, rite of passage, awesome. Every camp has a rope burn too, so it's not a big deal. But like, there's this obsession with fire at camp that's just so prevalent. Like, from the moment that Color War starts, you get people doing the fucking like flint.
It comes from rope burn.
I think it
definitely comes from rope burn.
But like, even I guess
because
you're right.
when people have practiced with the flint, that meant something. At the beginning of Color War, you're not supposed to practice. So if you're practicing and people find out, and like the whole legacy behind it, behind the tradition, it's not just the act of rope burn about winning Color War. It's the tradition of winning rope burn means something so much in the lore of camp history, and if you get there before you're supposed to get there, that's like unheard of.
I think it's just funny to see, like, even after Color War's over, now that every time there's a campfire, Nova's like, yeah, we'll make the fire. Like they're fire experts because they did it once.
Yeah. And then soccer leagues, I remember one of the counselors was making like with twigs, like, here, you got to get the whatever out, and then you make the lean-to and something, and like your mind's blown because this is this sacred.
Yeah, it's like rocket science to us.
And it's like this sacred thing that you're learning ahead of time, and you're like, oh, you did soccer leagues? I learned how to make fire. I mean, I learned the lean-to.
I had a problem in 2017 when I was my first summer as junior boys supervisor, where the oldest boys in the division, the high juniors, were like so obsessed with rope burn, and I'm happy they were. Like, it's awesome to see that effect. But they were like trying to do their own. So behind the cabins,
didn't we do that?
Probably. Behind the cabins, they were like building like tiny fires, not really knowing what they're doing, just putting sticks together.
Okay.
And then they took it a step further by choosing alternates from mid-juniors. And it was like, I would like go through checking if the OD counselor's there, and it'd be like, where is your bunk? He's just like on his bed, like reading a book. It's like, where's the bunk? Like, like they're out like 3 doors down behind the bunk. And then you go to the mid-junior bunk, and they're like crying because they weren't chosen as high junior alternate for rope burn. So I think it's awesome that rope burn has that effect that trickles down to juniors. Like, that's one of the things that's stayed around forever. But it's like, it is funny. Like, the best example is of us, this obsession with fire is like, why did we burn a hermit crab? Yep. We didn't even do rope burn yet.
Yeah.
We just burned it. We just burned it for no reason. Yeah, it
might be a human thing. Might just be a human characteristic.
Yeah, and like teenage boys and hormones and shit, like burn.
Yeah.
We straight up burned him because he lived.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, we forgot to feed him. Now he must die because he survived.
So the reason I should have told the fire story first was I was walking down to the infirmary to try and get ice to have a sustainable, like it's just so crazy. So crazy what we got away with. Like, it really is just like the children, the childlike imagination and the misinterpretation and the fantasies that created the memories of camp. So I'm walking, I see the woods and the strobe light, and my first thought was, it's KKK. So I turned around, and I wanted to ask, like, to Ken Ridgway, like, is that still part of the lore?
I don't think so anymore, because this is a weird example, but it's the best thing I can think of. So, like, it comes down to like primary versus secondary storytellers here. So for something like the Holocaust, the most impactful speakers about the Holocaust are the survivors, and they're dying. Like, they're getting old, and some are passing away. We're losing them. So we live the Holocaust lives on through the stories that they tell, and then to the next storytellers. And it's like the classic thing, like stories are lost over time a little bit because each person changes it a little bit. So it's on each generation to tell that story, and as it gets told, that generation tells the next group. And I think that's just fading. I think, let's say we told it to our campers.
I found that with my fraternity.
Yeah.
With the lore of fraternity and the pledging and stuff. Like, I was like, I can't really tell the story of how this old pledge class did this. Like, can I take the liberty to craft the own legend? And recently, like, storytelling has been something I'm trying to work on, and
I think this is a great avenue for it.
Yeah, I mean,
in like a discussion format.
Judge me, please.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so important to convey the emotion of the past and how the language of the human experience. I think it's a huge thing to do. So then we had, I grant all those points. Did you have anything else to say? Because I was going to go on.
Well, I was just going to say that I think, like, if, let's say, we had heard the story, I don't know if you have, but I've been there when Ken Ridgway told it. So I'm, like, the next closest. Then I tell someone, and then it's on us when we were counselors to tell our campers. So if they don't tell it good enough, then it's lost. It's pretty much lost.
Yeah.
I don't think Ken Ridgway's coming back anytime soon to retell the story.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it doesn't really exist, that kind of lore anymore. But I think that there is definitely truth to it that I'll talk about after for sure. But go ahead. So
well, like I said, I explored the woods a lot. That was kind of, another thing that I did. And I kind of pushed the boundaries of finding the paths and seeing the open fields and going around these patches of wheat and stuff and going up big rocks and having overlooks to see the trees and all this stuff. So I took, when I was in charge of like 10-year-olds and stuff, I took them with, I think maybe CG or Dylan or something. I took them through these complicated paths that I myself created, and that was like kind of like a boundary that I pushed of finding like a cool spot in the middle of the woods to take the children and stuff like that. But so that's one thing of like, you have the liberty to create your own adventures and stuff, especially in the woods. Who knows what's out there? There's some houses, there's some fields and rocks and stuff. But then what's also crazy is that fake story that we happened upon where the counselors took 2 or 3 divisions and there was this epic journey to actually find something scary. The counselors were ahead and we're wading through the river behind them in this long path, and everyone has to be quiet, and you're like, shh, shh, shh. If someone like steps on a stick, they're like, keep it down. And they look over and they're like, oh my God. And they're running back. They're like, what did he see? It's like, we saw a fire. We saw a burning cross, blah, 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 blah. And then get out. And then the counselor's like, all right, here's what we saw. We're sitting around. Here's what we saw. We saw a burning cross and we saw this man, blah, blah, blah. It's like that was like crazy. That was something that
we were in the old enough stage to understand what they were talking about, but young enough to believe it.
Yeah.
And like, it's funny looking back because I was near the front and I could see it was just like a lady on her phone on her porch, like, yeah, Denise, yeah, how's your weekend? Like, but there was people like legitimately crying, like,
yeah,
like 13 and 12-year-olds crying.
And I remember looking back on this, just it's crazy remembering what it felt like to do that. Now I'm remembering that I didn't believe it, but I wanted to believe it so badly. I wanted to have that story of fear. So I tried to gin it up in myself and like try to really be scared. Like, what would it be like to be attacked or something?
Right.
And that must have been so scary. Like whatever. So
That makes me think, like, to get back to what I was saying about the lore before. So I think it's died down in that sense of that story being told about Ken Ridgway. But I believe that there is truth to that, not in the way that people think. So I think there's this misconception that KKK is like always wearing their hooded, like white pointy robes. KKK could just be like some random dude you see at the gas station that's like a closeted racist. And I have no doubts in the Schwenksville in the 70s and 60s and 80s. I mean, you look at Schwenksville now, it's completely different. Like, very well-developed area. I don't know if you've been, like, somewhat recently to, like, Royersford, but they have great developments, a good school district. It's different. It used to be, like, total farmland.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt that there was KKK members in that area. Now, did they wear their robes brand Ken Ridgway? I don't think so. I don't think so. But
Should be laughing.
yeah, no, I think it's silly. It's definitely like something it's able to be laughed at because it's so hyperbolic. And I think the fact that I don't know for sure keeps me on my toes, and it's like exciting that there is possibility of these legends that you hear.
What other legends were there? There was one with like a little girl and she hanged herself and came back and it was a ghost, and that was a really scary story if it was told well.
Mm-hmm. There's two that come off the top of my head. One's White Lady. And White Lady is like a totally different connotation now. When someone says White Lady, they think of like a Karen. White Lady, yeah. I believe, was like, I want to say like Novo 4 is where I remember it being told. They went on some nature walk and like saw a barn and a lady with a scary dog, and like she died and was haunting Boys Line, would walk up from the woods. And I remember like, do you remember walking back to the bunk at night and you'd like dare someone like, I dare you to walk along the wood line back to the bunk, and it was terrifying.
Yeah, it was really scary.
Yeah. And the other one would be the classic Shvatsa, excuse my language, Shvatsa Mini, which is the pre-visiting day. The last two to fall asleep are killed by Shvatsa Mini, who was like the what's the correct term for midget? Speaking of midgets, like what's with Quebec's history? Like midget wrestling, you had Shvatsa Mini. The story, two like it's only happened twice, but kind of weird. But the story goes that like a Russian kitchen staff member was like basically bullied and antagonized for being a midget, and then she retaliates by scratching at the windows at night and kills the last two to go to sleep. And I remember like legitimately being afraid. It's like, no one has died at camp, so why am I afraid of this person killing me in my sleep? But like when you're young, it's like really impactful.
Yeah, and it is kind of like the spheres of the unknown, the kitchen staff. Like, you don't know what the fuck goes back there.
Like, and like,
you don't know what's in that woods.
There's such a difference in even just 10 years that some of that stuff, like, you tell me that happened in the 70s, like, I'd believe it because the world was so different and camp was so different then. So it's definitely believable.
Yeah, I think some of the lore has been stripped away with people's ability to communicate, the cell phone phenomenon. Like everyone knows what happens everywhere.
Yeah, and you also have these kids now that like they can't handle a scary story, so they like opt out of hearing the scary story. They'll like sit in their bed with their hands on their ears. So I think back when we were younger, like you would just tough it up and you would just suck it up and listen to the story. And now you gotta like, you're like walking on eggshells as a counselor. Like, is this kid going to tell on me for telling a scary story? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one thing I regret from our Nova Summers, that our bucket list, one of the things on there was create a legend. And in my mind, I think I was the one who like contributed that idea, was like, we create a scary story together.
I think I remember
that we could pass down so that when we visit in like 20 years, like people are still talking about that story that we completely made up, and we never did it. And I mean, we still could. Like, it's a great thing. It's like we could all get drunk together down the shore one time, like make this story, and I'll start telling it at camp. But I think legacy is like the theme of Quebec in a way, and like the way it impacts you beyond Quebec, but also your legacy within camp too, and like how others perceived your group, your Nova. So it'd be great if we could like get together and do a legend.
That would be really cool. Yeah. And I mean, better time than any. It's not like
right.
It's not like it matters that we're 5 years.
And I'm talking like a legit one, not like those campfires where like, then this like crazy bear we saw in the woods called Rosenwasser ugly, and we all screamed or something. Like the classic campfire ones where you're like, all right, and I'm going to pass it over to Barrett. Barrett, take over.
Yeah, they're standing it aloud. Like,
we basically just played an improv game. We're like, all right, we're going to tell a story about Rosenwasser and then pass it to the next person.
I thought that was hilarious, though, because it started legit, and then
Oh, it gets so bad.
It got and
but
then
the
it got
funniest thing
cringy.
is
But
when like it can go well if you have like articulate people that are not scared to get up in front of the camp. But like even someone at the beginning could be like such a bad storyteller that they just completely mess it up. It's like,
but it's funny. It's
it's
funny to
great.
see like, oh, who's like, is Rosewasser gonna mess it up?
Yeah.
Or like, oh, like I wonder what happens when it's gonna get to Griffin.
And now you watch it on the adult staff side, and you're just like, oh my god, like this is so stupid. But I love it. It's like a great camp thing. That's not a tradition per se, but it's like a thing that happens. Like that's a weird line as well. Like what's tradition and what's just like something, you know?
What do you mean by that?
Like
I think I almost understand what you're saying.
I didn't explain it very well, but like there's things that are definitely traditions, like rope burn, barnstorming. But then there's things that are repeated and they have been happening because they've happened, but they're not written traditions per se. So an example is, I don't know, like Nova eating first at the meals. Is that tradition or is that just the way it's always been? And is they're allowed to overlap, so a tradition and something that's always been like a square, a rectangle, a square is a rectangle, per rectangle is not a square.
Yeah.
I
I like if like a low senior or something gets up and tries to eat and doesn't know the tradition. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You're getting behind me, dude.
Maybe another good example too, and this has been a contentious topic as well because some of these things have changed over the recent years, and people are like, "Wow, like Josh is changing traditions." It's like, well, it's not. It wasn't necessarily a tradition just because you saw it the past like 6 summers, like, so a good example, like stickball is always seen as something only the senior division does.
Yeah.
And then like one year they like let the inners try it out for like a not color leagues, but just like a bunk challenge thing, and it was awesome for them. And people were like, "That's tradition."
Wow, that's crazy. Because
Yeah.
what is the consequence of opening that up? Like, it doesn't really make a difference. It's
Right.
just kind of the way things have been.
Right.
And like, if they're competent, if it is something that they can take care of, like,
I'm trying to think of a good example because there has been a decent amount of like these minor changes over the years. Can't even think of any off the top of my head, but like I know that there's been people that were like, "Wow, Josh is ruining all the traditions." Like Miss Quebec was definitely one that people were upset about.
is talent shows the same?
They're still the same, yeah. But actually, no. Okay, so that's a good example you just raised. They don't really allow those like bunk performances anymore.
Yeah.
At least not in the way that we're used to them, where like Nova would go up and dance hilariously and badly to like a funny song. Like
Yeah.
that, like what do we do, Mr. Jones or whatever it is, Dr. Jones?
We had a medley.
Yeah. So
Legendary. Oh, man. That's a great memory.
yeah, so they got rid of that because I think they became like over sexualized. What my issue with that is not that it was a tradition. It wasn't. Just because that's an example of like people do that, not because it's tradition, just because like others have done it.
Well, I mean, yeah, the talent show was two different things. There was people with talents, and then there was the bunk things. It's like if the bunk, like, you know, it was cool to be a part of that because, you know, the Shire kids in the bunk wouldn't want to do a talent show ever in their life, but now they are up with their comrades doing a little funny dance to a funny song, and you know, it's a big deal even if it isn't like funny, and
Definitely.
then it has the bunk cohesion of we killed it.
I
blah
think
blah blah.
I think that was truly our first like group unifying experience because we
You're
were
right.
combined we've had like various people from our bunks would go hang out in the other bunks at night, and we played leagues together on the same teams and stuff, but like that was the first time all 16 of us, maybe we had Larry Robinson, so 17, were all together part of something. Like that felt like a unifying thing. Even though Oast was like bullying CG the whole time.
We haven't even gotten to CG.
Yeah, it's like a whole
We should
other
probably
thing.
wrap it up.
Yeah, let me see. Check how far. My mom said 17 minutes ago we still have a while. So let's go to like 4, I guess.
Yeah, let me go check to see if the video is still going.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been so good.
Yeah. Test. Yeah, we good. Did you start recording already on there?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I have no idea where we were or where we're going.
I can't remember either, which is weird. My memory's usually pretty good. We were talking about
Stories.
definitely stories a lot, and
Oh, the traditions, Nova eating first and stuff.
oh yeah, so the talent show is what we were last talking about.
Talent
So
show.
talent show has changed in that sense, and I think it was because the performances just got over sexualized, which is like I get, but instead of eradicating the entire talent show, all they had to do is say like, okay, if you do something inappropriate, there will be consequences, like no grove time for like a few nights, and I think that would work. Like,
Yeah, there's enough to do. There's enough.
right, like don't just cut something completely. Same thing with Miss Quebec, but that's a whole other story because they're like, oh, that's so offensive.
Yeah.
I think
I
that's,
mean, drag queens are so popular now. Who
right,
cares?
and I don't even think that's a Quebec thing though, because like PW did a Mr. PW pageant, which was hilarious. I mean, it's a bit same concept, but like no drag. So you do like a beauty round, a like talent round, and a like a bikini, like a bathing suit round or something. He'll probably go up soon. So they did. A little distracting. So they changed Mr. PW to make it like Mr. and Mrs. PW, so like girls could participate too, which I get, but I think it's less funny at Quebec if they tried that. I just think instead of cutting the whole thing with the talent show, because there's great potential with like Nova performing. Like we could.
Wait. So what happened? What was the change?
So it
that
was
made?
Mr. PW. It was just boys in a pageant style to like a mix of boys and girls.
So what was the change at Quebec?
The change at Quebec is that you can't really do those bunk performances anymore.
Okay.
Like at all. Like instead of just saying like you can't do anything inappropriate, they're like you just can't do it.
Yeah.
So now you get like 15 junior girls singing, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I remember coordinating Nova 15's talent show
Mhm.
stuff, and it was cool. It was I bonded with them over that, and then I started hanging out in the bunks. I
Mhm.
got to know all the personalities, and then I was roper and coach for half of them, of course, and that was like the first time where I bonded, in like a mentor-y kind of outside personality kind of way with a younger bunk.
Mhm. I think it's weird to say, but I think like the talent show and anything like performing arts is like a good avenue at Quebec to bond, because we're all on like a level playing field for the most part. Like in basketball, there's such a discrepancy in skill level, but if we're just putting together a stupid talent show performance, we're gonna bond because like we're all like, what are we doing? This is so stupid.
Yeah.
But great transition point. We did not all bond. We did not all bond that summer, 2010.
Dun dun dun.
We started practicing on the back blacktop behind boys line, and then we went
Oh,
to
yeah.
the gymnastics room.
What
and
do
I-
we call that? The black
Now it's like colloquially, is that the right word? I can't speak anymore.
colloquially.
I'm like Trump, like United States. Now it's known as like just the court behind Temple. But I don't really know.
I tried to coin it with. I was gonna say Frankie again. I tried to coin it with Frankie or Frank. Like I think we were calling it like the jam ball or slam ball
Oh
court.
yeah. That was a great court for flicker ball too. We had some good battles
Oh
back there.
wow.
Yeah.
But
But
flicker ball, playing basketball in an ultimate frisbee fashion where you couldn't run with the ball, but with a football and
just bounces like crazy
Yeah.
everywhere. But I remember we practiced back there first, and it was really hot, and like tensions are rising a bit. Like people are just getting stressed out. Like we don't like to dance, and we go to the gymnastics room because I think someone else was using it first, and then we got access, and there's that big mirror. But there was some fight.
gymnastics room.
Yeah, fitness center.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess we used to not be gymnastics. Now it's gymnastics. So fitness center has a big mirror that's like great for dance rehearsals. There was some fight that broke out with CG and Oast with a hula hoop. I don't really know like the details of it. I wasn't really involved,
I don't remember this at all.
but it speaks to a larger thing. This was CG's first summer as a 14-year-old coming into a tight-knit group of people that have been at Quebec for ranging from like probably 4 years to like Brett Paul being there for like 14 years as a 14-year-old. So
Yeah. And CG, this isn't like, bashing him, but he did have a tendency to tell exaggerated stories about his life outside of camp, and that in that
Right, but
environment.
so
was
that's-
not.
It's interesting
Not
to
cool.
note, was that something he did because of the situation or regardless of? So like if you came into a group of people and you wanted to impress them, would you like start making up stuff to make yourself sound cooler too?
I would say no.
Okay. But I think it varies. I think there are
Yeah.
people that
but
will.
also, I didn't have those stories.
So
I
it's-
didn't have anything. I didn't live in New York City.
Right. So I think circling back to what we talked about in the beginning is this like culture of being accepted into the group can be dependent on sports. It can be dependent on seniority and time spent at camp or having a brother at camp. And for CG, he was the odd example of one that didn't have that stuff per se. Solid athlete, CG. I know you're going to get mad about it. But comes into camp at age 14 and isn't like a star athlete. And
Did
wasn't
his brother come in at the same time?
I think so. And wasn't like a particularly like Grossman Barrett level of humor either. So to come in with like none of that stuff put him at a huge disadvantage. And
Yeah.
he's the rare example that made it through. And now he's our boy. And like he stayed through all the bullying and now it eventually earned our respect almost for like surviving that. So I would love to hear like a podcast with him talking about like his side of things. But from my point of view, it just seemed like he was constantly getting made fun of, torn apart, and like didn't have that one go-to friend. Like for me,
Yeah.
since I started with Brett Paul and Fleischer, like those were always like I could fall back on those two as my boys. But like he didn't have that group yet. He didn't have that position or standing within our group of 16 or 17 guys. So kudos to him. Like that is one of the most remarkable stories is that he like survived through that.
Yeah. And my intuition is that it had to do with his outside of camp experience
Mhm.
of having, shenanigans and stories and stuff. Even though we didn't hear any of that, like it's weird in camp where you don't tell stories about outside of camp unless you're a counselor, and we know that what kind of stories those are.
Right.
But inside of camp, like there wasn't a lot of sharing outside stories. So, but he did at least feel like secure in himself
Mhm.
enough
Mm-hmm.
to stay and take it. I think it does have to do with that. It wasn't like he was an outsider at home. He's coming an outsider here. He had like he had friends. He had things to do.
Right. True, Snoopy.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting case because he is the outlier in that sense that others have fallen per se. So like
Many.
yeah,
many
I think we
others.
counted at Fleischer's house when it was at a sleepover, and there was 30 to 40 guys between UCLA 2004 and Nova 12 that were in our age group for any time as long as a week for like
Wow. 30 to 40. I
Yeah,
believe it,
yeah.
but that's crazy
Yeah.
to add them all up. That's like twice as many as survived.
Right. So for a variety of reasons, hold on, let me get him to go upstairs. He always barks at the stairs. He's like afraid to go up, and then he'll go. Right when I get up, he goes.
Yeah. And one other thing was the sleepover stuff and the bar mitzvah age. That was a big bonding experience as well. I don't know what happened to my water. I think it's over there.
Yeah, all I remember from that like 2010 time was, we had been together. My bunk, we were still separate at this point, but like that group of like me, Barrett, Fleischer, Brett, Grossman, Marcus less so, but he was 08. We've been together for so long that any news that comes in, like a new guy's coming, there's like this pack mentality. Like, I wonder if he's gonna be cool. And Brett Paul managed to be a pen pal in like his 17th summer at camp for CG, and he like, yo, I found him on Facebook, and like we like did the little Facebook stalk, and CG had like a bicep picture and like basketball. we gave him a chance, but he comes off the bus with a collared shirt and khakis. We're like, oh, this guy. And yeah, it's that pack mentality of like, we all know each other and we're comfortable with each other for like as much as 6 years for some of us, and the bar mitzvah age and the sleepovers, and our parents know each other, and this other guy's gonna come in, and it's like we gotta feel him out at first. And I don't know when CG would define the turning point as, but I think combining Temple Summer like kind of takes the attention off of like scapegoating one kid. It probably helped to have like Sam Golden and Sheard, because 2010 like we had Steve Klein and 2 internationals as our counselor. So for CG to come into camp with those as his first 3 counselors is not a good combo.
Yeah.
Like he didn't really have anyone to stick up for him then. So good on him though. I mean, we could go on for hours about like not the flaws, but what was the demise of the people that didn't make it? Because there were some great ones. Like I think of someone who's like a very campy person, like Max Myers. Like he was there for what, 3
first
years?
thought.
4?
God, wow, it's crazy to think it was only 3 or 4, but it was only 3
And
or 4.
he was like a good enough athlete. Like
I think it was
found,
4. He
yeah.
was our year of 6.
And he found like his niche, like funny dude, diabetic, fits in that sense. Was at all of our bar mitzvahs. We were invited to his. Gone.
Mm-hmm.
To go to a sports camp, mind you. Like he wasn't a great athlete, but he's good.
He was good at hockey.
Yeah. And then someone like Austin Rose, who started in 05 and went to 09, and then he stopped. And it just makes you wonder, like, was there any way it would have worked, or was this like doomed to fail the whole time?
Yeah. And I mean, the outside of camp experience does play a role.
Definitely.
Into,
Yeah.
You know, you're 8 months, 9 months removed from your first year at camp. What are you going to do?
Right. Yeah. It's, it just makes me wonder, like, we didn't do anything wrong in the sense that, like, we should have regrets and be like, I wish I didn't treat this kid like that. We were kids. Like,
For
that's
most
how we do it.
people.
Yeah. But, I don't know. I just wonder, like, would love to hear from all these people why they didn't come back. There were so many of them in different ways. Like,
Yeah, and hear what they thought of
Yeah,
camp. What memories do they have? What was the most important thing to
I
them?
really think if Quebec, I don't know, it would be obviously too late for some of them now, but like we really should start getting feedback on campers that don't come back, so we can like reform what our program and culture is offering, so that we can get like we do plan this stuff out with orientation and talk about our culture, but if we're not basing it off of why we're losing kids, then how are we going to get any better?
Yeah, it's just kind of like circular reasoning.
Yeah, like
people
we're
coming back.
We're guessing. We're saying like, oh, maybe this is why they didn't come back, but without asking them for feedback, we won't know. Probably
That's
an
very
awkward
interesting.
situation to be like, hey, like you're not coming back to camp. Why?
Well, I mean, not really. It's like, hey, I know you guys didn't come back to camp, and we don't hold it against you. We hope you're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to know why you didn't, so
Right.
that we can make the experience better for other
Definitely,
people
yeah.
like you.
If I was in charge, like I would love to do something like that, but alas, I am not.
Yeah.
I'm just a measly supervisor, athletic director, or something. I don't even have my own cabin yet.
Yeah. What? Really?
Yeah.
So what do you do?
So let's see,
Has it been different across the years? That
Not really. So 2016 was the first year I was there without you guys.
right?
I was essentially like a slash. I was like a true slash, a counselor / supervisor. So I had a camper bunk, but this was the first year of the pilot program with like the 2-weekers. So Matty Rowe was like never present. Like he was constantly making phone calls and video chats with these parents, because that's what the program's offering. It's like for parents that are afraid to send their kids to camp.
Wow.
So
They needed a new job for that, essentially.
Right. And they didn't make one. So instead of doing that, they made me kind of like a counselor with way more supervisory responsibilities. So I would like lead lineup, but then go with my bunk to breakfast and clean up.
Yeah.
And then like run leagues, but then be a coach in leagues. It was like really a weird experience.
Wow.
It was kind of like a supervisor in training role. But that summer I was in a camper bunk, and then 17.
Did you have all the responsibilities of supervisor, or did you feel like you didn't? There were other things that you didn't have to touch.
I think I didn't have to do much in the realm of like disciplining counselors, and that would have been awkward for me to do at that age. I was 19 maybe, like some
with the voice crack.
yeah, I was 19. I was 19 with like peers as counselors that were probably from Nova 13, so they're barely younger. It just would have been really, and I'm in the same, I'm like a counselor just like them, so it would have been awkward for me to be like, yo, like put your phone away and like help clean up, or like, yo, like gotta get out of the owl's nest and like take them to their next activity. Like and I'm also like very conscious and like insecure about what others perceive of me, so like I wouldn't even want to put myself in that role where they're like, wow, BK's such a dick, like,
Yeah, he's doing this and then he's reprimanding us.
right. So I'm totally fine with the programming aspect and the schedule and like leading lineup and small stuff like that, and then didn't want to have to like deal with the counselor side of things, which is the worst part of being a supervisor anyway. 2017 and 18, I was in St. Joe's, which was like cabin 2 or 3 on Boys Line, and it was me and Alex Ball, and then Alec Highlizer came late in 2017, and then 2018 he was there the full time. So we had 3 people in there for most of the time. And then
what was Highlizer doing in those 2 years?
The first summer, since he came late, he basically became like an assistant athletic director, but he would kind of just help out where needed. So
yeah, I mean that position is notoriously you walk around.
Yeah, so he was a great help for like if we needed a ref for something, like here's an extra body, or if you needed I don't know, like someone to help run hexathlon or battle the countries, because you can't get enough people. Like you need many people to run those things good. So I gotta correct myself. So, and then 2018 he was CIT, which we know as senior boys supervisor, which was fascinating because his brother was a Nova counselor, so that dynamic just did not flow.
Weird.
2019, the most recent summer that happened, was I was athletic director but shared a cabin with Alex Ball again. So I'm hopeful that next year I get my own place.
It's interesting. It doesn't, when you lay it out, it doesn't feel like it's been that long since we've graduated.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of weird. I feel like it's been a trend since before our time, but like counselors seem to do this thing where a lot of them come back as interns, a little less the next year because of Penn State, and then like one final hurrah,
a resurgence,
and then they're gone. And it's like, other than me and Highlizer, no one has come back past that third year since like Jesse Goldberg.
Wow.
Yeah. It's weird. And that's another societal thing, because I was talking to Rapp and Nash about it. They're like, yeah, when we were younger, people would come to like 24, like a lot of people. But now there's this pressure to get an internship or get a job, or like the parents are like, don't do camp, it's stupid, or like move on to the real world.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I think that shouldn't exactly be the case, because when I had my last hurrah in 2015 with everybody, I feel like I didn't appreciate it with adult eyes. I was still in college. It was just after freshman year and stuff, and it's funny because I did the Frisbee stuff.
I remember you were like,
and then I came back.
All right, I'm Bubbles, I'm the Frisbee specialist. That's good.
Yeah, and I came back with that confidence that I never had.
Well, I remember the last day of camp 2015, me and you went to Duncan on the way home, and like we were plotting to be the next Spike and Sobel the following summer. It didn't pan out, but like it's really interesting to see that now it's like this known thing, like everyone's going to stop after their third summer as a counselor.
Yeah. Yeah, which, I mean, I was talking about maybe like helping out this summer, just because I wanted, selfishly, I wanted some adult eyes and a fresh perspective on the camp experience, and also, you know, the whole pandemic and whatever. But
yeah, I think there's more out there that are like wish they could go back.
I remember Jesse Gear. That guy, he was such like a put together man that was casually an American counselor. He was older, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and he got counselor of the year?
I don't think so. I think it might have been Dylan that year. Controversy. Yeah, anyway. I think
but he was a great guy. He like led the troops. He didn't, you know, he wasn't into the whole like, night out shenanigans.
Yeah,
It was-
I don't fault people for the mindset that they want to like be an adult now, but I don't think it's necessarily true.
I don't think it's true at all now. Yeah.
I think, like, so here was my route that I took. I was always a grade older than you guys, so I was already one step closer. So it's even more crazy that I was the longest one to last because I'm 1 year closer to adulthood, for lack of better words.
Sure.
2013 was our intern summer. I graduated like 2 months, or no, yeah, I graduated high school about 2 months before camp, or no, what am I talking about? 1 month before camp, going into intern summer. Throughout the next few summers, I was just going to camp and getting internships during the school year. So I was like a marketing intern at Hillel, or worked for some like cardiac care company as an intern. Everyone else felt the pressure, like I need to get an internship, and they just see internships as a summer thing. So you had people go to Penn State summer session. We lost a lot to that. We lost a few to internships. And in reality, the difference between marketing internship at OSU Hillel versus like the company that Fleischer worked for in 2014, and I think he hated it. I remember him saying like he really, or no, it was 2013. It was 2014. He came back as an intern. It's negligible. Like you could put blind resumes next to each other, and I don't think the employer is going to be like, well, this one went back to camp. What's he doing?
Yeah. And we're young.
Right. And it's like the societal pressure that like you need that info on the paper, on the resume, but in reality, like we're getting similar experiences. And if anything, I saw this great article a while back that was like a dad that was reluctant to allow his daughter to go back to work at a summer camp, and then eventually like caved and realized like there's so many great lessons and great skills you learn from being a counselor that you're not going to get copying papers at an internship. And don't get me wrong, like internships vary. Like some are very impactful, but some you're just doing bitch work.
Yeah.
So I have no regrets or qualms. I did feel a little weird, and like again, like worrying about what you guys perceived as me. I was like, are they going to think I'm weird for like still being at camp? But I think over time people are like, no, like I'm envious that like you got to do that and still go there.
I certainly am.
Yeah.
I did a job, but a nothing job the
Right.
next year. I wish I had gone back.
Yeah. It's never too late.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it.
I think they'd love to have you. I mean, at this point, again, my mentality has kind of grown from caring what others think to being like life's too short and do what makes you happy. So going to camp, granted, it works out because I'm going into education, so I'll have summers off. But like, I didn't know that until 2018. So all those years I was going back, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, I'm going to go back to camp because I love camp and it's going to make me happy to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely learn and grow as a person a lot of camp. And that's something I think we can talk about for a while is you kind of like learn your way there to some extent in so many
You
different...
get put in your place a lot.
Yeah.
You learn your boundaries through other people.
But you learn so much there. Like bad words I learned at camp.
We listened to a lot of rap music
Yeah.
early on in life.
Right. You learn bad words. You learn about like kissing girls. I'm a terrible example for that, but like you learned about that. Like your first kisses at camp, your first fights at camp.
So I'm told.
Yeah, so I'm told. Side note, I remember I was the last one on our bunk to hook up with someone. It was with Alex Cohen the night of visiting day when we were interns. Like I was an intern when I had my first kiss. I ran to Grossman's bunk. Which is your bunk.
Yeah.
Woke him up at like 12:30. I was like, yo, he's on the top bunk. I'm like, Grossman. What? I hooked up. He's like, nice. But yeah, like I think in that way, like you'd grow so much socially at camp that you would never get that experience anywhere else.
Yeah. One of the things that went through my mind was just how free you are. You get off that bus and like you are a free spirit. Like you can curse, you can do this, you can do that, you can be ridiculous, you can get in fights, and like you all have to live together.
You can start
it's
a
all
crime
water under the
syndicate
bridge.
called Lemon Stew.
Yeah. You can conspire, you can explore. Like the amount of just like freedom is unparalleled.
Right.
Unparalleled. I think it's incredible for that aspect.
Mhm.
Whereas outside of camp, like you know, you have your house, you have your basement, your middle floor, your upstairs, you walk on the sidewalk, you drive on the road, you sit at your table, you put your hands like this, you pay your check and everything. It's like it's so routinized, whereas in camp you have that freedom to like explore the other areas of your life and find your boundaries, make your incredible mistakes, and learn about the, you know, all the aspects of your personality rather than just the societal aspects.
And it's comes back to a larger societal point right now, which is I don't want to go too deep into this because it's like depressing, but like talking about kids needing to go back to school or like having that in-person interaction versus virtual things. And that's why it was so disappointing to not have camp, because you can't learn any of the stuff that we did and have those experiences when you're not with each other. So like, I'm so thankful that we had a very normal experience for however long that we were at camp.
Yeah. And we saw like a big transitional period. Like the iPhone came out when we were, you know, halfway through camp experience.
Yep. Yeah, we did it. We had it. We
for
had
the time capsule, you know, just looking at this 30, 40 years down the road.
What's
iPhones.
an iPhone? Yeah. Yeah, we had it good, and we did it well. As like we maximized our experience there for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any big regrets from your time at camp?
Give me 5 seconds.
Sure. Yeah, he pulls out one of his notes. That's a note 3,272. I'm just gonna try to think of mine as well. I think honestly, like it's not really fair to point it as a regret, but for me, being such a bitch about like girls as a young age led to a lot of bullying for me. So like I regret that I didn't do that, but like it's not really a decision that was made per se. It was like a fear almost. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't think it's fair to posit that as a regret.
I'm searching. I honestly don't think I have any.
Let me mute this phone real quick.
Call from Spam and Narcisi.
That was from Spam Narcisi, it said. But also, for those watching in 2050, that's called a landline phone. That's definitely not going to be here like next year.
Yeah.
So you said no regrets.
I don't think I do, because I fucked with people. I was maniacal at times. I didn't try as hard at some sports as I wanted to. I stayed in a little bit. I didn't talk to as many girls as I probably would have liked to at that age, but nothing stands out as like I didn't try it. Like,
right, but also at the same time, also agreeing with your point there is that even things that you can look back on and say like I could have done this, you still learned from it and now can say like it can change your mindset on something like that now.
Yeah.
So you still learned from it. It can't really be a regret.
I think I did have a good attitude of like I said, of being a little courageous in trying things, where there were a lot of things that I can't even put my finger on at this moment of I'm a little afraid to do this. I'm like a little timid. I don't think I'm going to do it well. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Like lighting my hand on fire or eating that snake. It was like I wanted to make that split second decision that I knew I'd be afraid. Like, oh shit, I just said yes to that.
Right. Do you know what was big for me? This is just loosely related to that, not even about regrets, is that for me as like someone moderately interested in like a musical career of some sorts, whether that means like playing at restaurants or bars, whatever.
Have you done that?
I've played, no. So I was almost going to play this place called Guppies in Conshohocken, but they, I didn't have them equipment ready yet, basically. And then COVID. So my first real performance was in the Pack. It was me and Brett Paul singing Don't Worry, Be Happy with lyrics about Quebec. And you sat there blindfolded. And we called you like, we called the act like the Fantastic Blumberg or something like that. So like the whole joke was that you were just going to sit there blindfolded and eat chips while Brett and I sing. And for like whatever reason, just like having you guys on stage with me like brought me that confidence. And like now I sing at every campfire and talent show by myself. And it's like, I don't know, something about just like having you guys on the stage like helped me advance that career. That's something I never would have gotten outside of Quebec. But yeah, what a thing we did there.
I loved being the wild card because
Yeah.
I owned it.
Yeah, there was speaking of wild card,
And bro, like when I'm sitting there blindfolded, my heart is pounding because I know all eyes are on me.
yeah, they're like waiting for you to do something,
wa-
and
yeah.
you're not doing something.
And I'm just like so excited, and like you almost get like twitchy, and you don't want to
Right.
twitch because everyone's watching you. It's
Yeah.
like it's crazy. When I did the Shia LaBeouf thing, when I dug up that memory, I can't believe I did that.
Mhm.
I cannot believe I did. I like it almost felt like a false memory. It was me, Shikoff, and Dylan or something. We did that. It's like a joke song on YouTube, like Shia LaBeouf was like some killer, and it's like a song about that. And I pulled it up. I'm like, yo, let's do this. And Shaky was like, yeah, sure. And then we started practicing, and then started getting real. Then I'm getting up on stage with a microphone from the entire camp and like thinking about that little kid who was unathletic and like treated people a little too harshly at times and had regrets of that. And I'm up there doing this crazy performance with a microphone, no blindfold this time, and like it went great, and it became like a
it's
meme.
truly riveting. Like I don't know if everyone gets it, but like performing in front of a crowd, even if you like royally fuck up, like you had the balls to go up there, or ovaries or whatever, to go up there, and like no one, like others didn't, like they were too scared. And
That's what I feel about this podcast.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna start it. Maybe it's gonna go terribly, but I can only go up from there.
Right.
And it's an authentic conversation. I'm a flawed, weird human being, so why not tell these
Right.
cool stories, put it on the internet, and then it'll be around forever.
Yeah, and that's something I took away from camp. Like, it's that place where others that are outside don't get it, but you come in, no matter what your background at school, you could be like a total loser. You come in like you have a fresh, clean slate, and everyone kind of just appreciates everyone for the most part. And like you feel empowered to do something stupid, like get in front of the whole camp and do the talent show performance, or I don't know, like dance at the dance in like one of those mobs.
Yeah.
Or our crazy dance entrance at the neon dance, like Browndorf kissing Griffin. So yeah, camp has that power to like bring out this side of people that they didn't have or didn't know they have. So I'll always appreciate it for that. For me, it's just a place of so many firsts where I learned so many things. Like I wish that people stayed longer. I do, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen much, just because the changing of the guard.
It'll be interesting to see 30, 40 years down the road because, times are changing so quickly, and the sports versus general camp kind of thing, where that leads.
It's funny you say that because when I was with Josh the other day, it was me, Weston, Josh, Rapp, and Morgan, and the kids were up. This was probably around like 8, like before we filmed the video. We're just chilling, and Logan and Mia are like, that's the kids. They were running around like fully naked, and Weston's like, what are you guys doing? Like, cute, playing with the babies. I was like, how's it feel? That's your boss in 20 years. He's like, oh God. Like, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see in 20 to 30 years, like these kids that I see running around naked are going to be directors at this camp, like presumably. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't anticipate any selling of the camp. Knock on wood. I mean, like, some people would like want change of management, but in my opinion, if camp were to sell, it would be because of an emergency, like COVID causing them to need to sell.
Yeah.
So I'd rather them not sell.
Yeah. That would shake things up even greater with
Yeah.
like a sense of tradition and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be. I wouldn't go back. I don't think. Like, I don't go back for the facilities or anything. I couldn't imagine being there without like Rapp and Weston right now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
and
I think that's a good place to stop.
yeah, sure.
Cool.
Sure. Episode 1 of 17.
Yeah, for real. It's gonna be crazy when we get everyone else on there.
Yeah, I wonder who's gonna do it though.
I think it'll be 3 or 4. Host definitely will.